everybody, and welcome back to Motorcycles and Podcakes. Today's guest is actually pretty freaking rad sauce. I can't think of a better guest today to have on for Veterans Day. That's right, that's today, 11/11/23. And we have a retired Navy officer. We have a Secret Service agent?
No, employee.
Employee, okay.
Yeah, we can explain that later.
Yeah, absolutely. And for Veterans Day, I almost wore the exact same shirt that he's wearing today. That was kind of funny. But today for Veterans Day, we've got JJ Morell, man. What is going on?
Just another day in paradise and one more trip around the big blue marble, right?
Yeah, there we go, right?
Yep.
Outstanding. So you and I had a quick conversation on the telephone yesterday, and you told me a little bit about a speech that you gave. And for kind of context, being it is November, this is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. And since you're my first male guest of the month, I thought it'd be just kind of good just to kind of talk about that for just a moment, because if you're listening to this and you've seen my video and you know my story, or if you haven't, go to Motorcycles and Pancakes on YouTube and find the inner monologue, my inner monologue video. You can find my story there, and it goes into depth of what it is. We don't need to get into it right now, but with that being said, it's 22 a day for the veteran suicide. It is Veterans Day. It is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's just like the trifecta of the day. So, I can't speak enough about it's okay to break the proverbial man code. Exactly. The stigma of men's mental health, that we're not supposed to talk about it. We're supposed to push it under and just, dude, you'll be fine, man. Don't even worry about it, bro. Yep. So if you're struggling right now and you're listening to this, it is totally good and okay to ask for help. That's actually strength. But there's also should I find some help, or do I want to find help? Because there is a huge difference between the two, but you got to start somewhere. So if you need to find some help, there's a lot of organizations. My Better Health here in the United States, I think that's international, but also an organization that I really support is Heads Up Guys. So you go to headsupguys.org, and they have a little test that you can take there, and you can see where you're at. They give you a whole bunch of resources, and if you need that in your life, then please, please, please go do that. And also on the flip side, if you're a dude and you know somebody that is struggling or maybe struggling or showing signs of depression or suicide or something, they also have resources how to strike up conversations with other people. So just wanted to kind of get that out, being November. So that was quick. But you and we had that quick conversation yesterday.
Right.
So, and you went to I forget the name of the college that you went to and you spoke at. So you want to bring that up real quick?
Yeah. So I went to Bates Technical College up in Tacoma.
Okay.
On Thursday.
Okay.
And myself and Jonathan Williams, also with VB40, went up there. And he was there. He's an instructor at Portland Community College, and he was also the leader of the tuck ride.
Right.
So you can't really talk about the one without talking about the other, because they're kind of intertwined.
Right. But just for that tuck ride, just real quick, because there's some people that are probably going, we know what's going on, but they don't.
Right. So what we did is Jonathan came to VB40 and said, hey, I've got this idea about getting a group of veterans together and riding from Portland, Oregon, up to the Arctic Ocean, to Tuktoyaktuk in Canada. And along the way, we want to film it, and we want to talk about veteran suicide. So the veterans that we want to invite are veterans that have had to deal with veteran suicide in one manner or another, whether it was their own demons they were fighting or a family member or a close friend. And so they did that this past summer. And Jonathan put that together, and Portland Community College and VB40 worked together to sponsor that and get it up there.
Right.
So I was invited back in late spring of this year to go to Portland Community College and talk about some of the challenges that veterans have, right, when they're transitioning. The big thing is, veterans transition from the military. They've been told for years what to wear, what to do, when to do it, how to do it, right? And now they are no longer in that environment, and they're making that transition. And that's just those are the easy things to transition from.
Yeah.
You have veterans that were in combat that saw and had to do horrible things. And to unplug from that and move back into, quote, normal society, it's a challenge, and it creates a lot of issues. One of which is suicidal ideations, and how do you deal with that? And so I was talking to a group of instructors at Portland Community College for the National Diesel Institute conference. So they were all diesel mechanic instructors, and they came from all over the country. But I was talking to them, and one of those instructors is an instructor at Bates Technical College, and he invited me up to basically do a similar discussion with the entire faculty up there at Bates.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So we went up there and we talked about it, and it was working with the faculty about how do you have those discussions. First of all, how many of you have veterans in your courses? Do you even know? Almost all of them raise their hands. Of course, it's up in Tacoma, right? So
Right.
you have quite a bit larger veteran population up there than you do, let's say, here in the Portland, Oregon area.
Right. Yeah.
They all had veterans, and then I asked, how many of you have had a veteran come to you and confide in you that they're having problems with anything? Whether it's, I can't get child care, I can't make rent, I'm having trouble in my classes, or, I'm scared and I feel like I need to hurt myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And about half of those instructors raised their hands. So, and it was really about the resources that are available, everything from the 988, suicide crisis hotline, to how to begin that conversation, and how to listen, right?
Yeah.
And I think it went off really well. We got a lot of compliments and everything. And one of the things about, and we call it the tuck ride, but it was really called Embrace the Tuck, yeah, right? And if you have any of you military folks out there, I think you know where that comes from. It's the embrace the suck, right? No matter how bad it is, just embrace the suck, put your head down and keep going, get the job done, right? When you transition and you move into the civilian world, that embrace the suck mentality will only take you so far. I talk about, during that presentation, I talked about a issue that I had after I transitioned, and where I just had my head down at work and just really going and trying to do everything and trying to, make it perfect and my manager was kind of on me, and I didn't handle it well. I did not handle it, and I think, and not every veteran's going to run into that issue. Some people will make the transition smoothly, and things will work out great. Some veterans will trip along the way. I consider what happened to me kind of a trip.
Okay.
And then, some veterans will have full-on breakdowns, and that's, where's the mechanic, and how do we get these folks fixed, or at least get them to work on fixing themselves.
That's a huge thing, especially right now, obviously, with the vets. And during this, did you give them any direction where that these faculty members can point these guys into?
Yeah, we talked a lot about some of the VA sources that are out there, and then was lucky enough to have the college's wellness coordinator there, and I was able to talk with her before we got up, and she said that her, would be the first place for these folks to stop if they're having these kinds of issues. And so we were able to play off of each other during the conversation, which, that was huge. But mostly we stuck around VA resources and I provided them a list of how-tos, like how to get into these conversations, how to listen for key phrases and words and things. We didn't go into a lot of detail about that.
Yeah.
But it was, because it said we'll be available after this during the breaks to talk. And we had a few folks come up and talk with us. It was pretty good.
I think it's pretty fantastic. Like, for real, that's such a powerful thing. And I think giving people resources, and I think the lady that was the wellness coordinator there at the school, I think from what I've read, men are a little bit more able to open up to a female than other guys. So being able to kind of let her in on some of the signs and the terminology or whatever for them to open up is, I think, such a huge part.
Yeah.
And then also for just the community in general. And I say community using veterans and motorcycles or whatever you do for a living or hobbies. There's always some community that's together on that. And I think bringing these communities together and just giving them resources and educating them on, hey, this is what happens and this is what is happening is just, I think it's so important. So important.
And I just didn't leave it with veterans either. We talked about how you have high school kids coming out of high school, moving in the environment, and teen suicide right now is almost the highest levels it's ever been. You have a couple of generations that are really confused and having issues, and so these tools work for that too. The big thing is don't be afraid to listen and don't be afraid to engage. So, and then the other thing I told them, I said, saving one and getting one across the line and moving on forward is great. Losing one is one of the worst things you'll ever experience. And, but you can't blame yourselves. So don't be afraid to engage, afraid that you're going to lose one.
Right.
Because if you don't, you may definitely lose one. And I think that one's probably harder to live with. Is I should have and I didn't.
Yeah, it goes back to our friend Sean and Brian. Actually, he's part of VB40, and I believe, I might be wrong on the person, but I believe it's Brian that said something on the lines of, "I'd rather answer the phone at 3 a.m. for you than go to your funeral." And I think that's really what we're looking at right now.
Yep.
It's so much better just to engage rather than I'm at a funeral and the shoulda, woulda, couldas.
Oh yeah,
that's no good. We had a family friend last week kind of reach out, and there was an issue with the son, and basically I had to go essentially drive him home. Is essentially what I had to do. But I sat in the truck with him, and we're bouncing home, and he's kind of trying to play it off that everything's kind of fine, but I have the backstory, so I know what's going on. So he was playing some music and stuff, but I finally was just like, let's talk, and had this conversation with him and stuff. And, he wasn't in a mentally a good place at the time, nor was he sober, right? So you're trying to deal with the kind of the trifecta of everything, and I've since kind of checked in a little bit, and I've told Mom, like, I want him to watch my video so he knows where I'm coming from, and then I want to sit down with him more when he's sober and we can actually talk, know. And I think that's exactly this whole thing that we're involved in right now.
Yeah.
So, well, that was a kind of a deep way to start this thing.
Jumping right in.
I know, right? So I guess what we'll do is we'll kind of get to know you a little bit more. So one of the things that I really like to do, and I think you as a person is kind of the epitome of what I started this podcast for, is just interesting people with interesting stories who happen to ride, happen to ride some motorcycles, but there's so much more to people than just, the motorcycle that they're on. It's the cliche. I've said it before. It's the person behind the helmet. That's what we kind of want to get to know, right? So I kind of a little bit of a cookie cutter. So people that listen to it, they're like, I already know where we're going right now, But I kind of like to start at the beginning with the guest. Your first time here. Let's really kind of dig into little JJ, if you will. So if we move back to born and raised, whereabouts were you born and raised at there, JJ?
Yeah. All right. So I was born in Tampa, Florida. September 2nd, 1969.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm getting up there. I was born there. My dad is John Stephen Morell Sr.
Okay.
And I'm Junior. That's where JJ comes from. And I've pretty much been JJ ever since the doctor cradled me out. So, my mom, sorry, she passed away a year ago.
Oh, man, I'm sorry to hear that, yeah.
So Cindy, she was my mom, and I grew up pretty much between Seffner and Tampa. Seffner was a little town right outside of Tampa. Now it's a great big, great big town outside of Tampa.
Sure.
Moved away when I was about 10. We moved to Louisiana. My first stepfather and my mom, and we lived in Slidell, Louisiana for about 3 years.
Oh yeah, I've been trucking down there a few times.
Yeah, there you go. Yep. So had my first crab feed down there and crawfish boil, and man, that was something.
Okay,
I'll never forget that. That was a good time. And then we ended up moving to Texas. Again, not so little town anymore, but Waxahachie, Texas. It's about an hour. Well, it used to be an hour. It's probably about an hour and a half south of Dallas now.
Yep.
Graduated high school there and went on to Baylor University. So in Waco, Texas, and I got my bachelor's degree from Baylor. And where do you want to go from there?
That's actually, you just like moved right across the South.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, you're just like, hey, we started here, and now let's just kind of mosey on our way westward, I guess, huh?
Yep.
Even from, Texas, where you, Waxahachie or Waxahachie, however you say it?
Yeah, Waxahachie.
Waxahachie. Yeah. That place. Even west over to Baylor.
Yeah.
It's, so growing up, high school, whatever, any sports?
Yeah, yeah.
When you're in Texas, was there football involved?
There was football involved, yeah. My junior year, I was actually second team all-state strong safety.
Oh, no kidding.
Then my senior year, they moved me to outside linebacker. And I got injured during practice and pretty much missed the whole season.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's no fun.
Sucked.
Yeah, well, moving down to strong safety, strong side.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So and then all the backs, running backs, defensive backs, wide receivers, we all had to run track. So,
all right, you had to run track.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
You will pick, if you're a back, you will pick a sprint that you want to run, and you will run that.
No kidding.
Oh yeah.
I wonder if that's still a thing down there.
I don't know. It's a religion.
Oh, without a doubt. I think a lot of people hear about like Texas football, and if you're not from around Texas, I remember the first, and this is a long time ago, one of the first times I actually went like driving into Texas, like I'm trucking through there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I wonder what college this is. Like I figured it was like a JC or something. No, it's the high school stadium. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God.
Oh yeah.
It's amazing down there. Yeah. And then, I cannot remember the town. I know the high school is purple and white, and they're the Panthers. And they're on, I believe, somewhere along Highway 36 or 84, 36. Mm-hmm. Anyways, all the signs in town are purple and white.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just Panther flags all the way down Main Street.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just like, oh, this is rad.
Yeah.
You don't get that around here.
No.
For sure. So you kind of were hanging out, you playing the football,
Yeah.
you ran the track,
Yeah.
and then you decided, hey, you know what, I want to go to Baylor.
Yeah.
Was there multiple schools involved, or was it always Baylor?
There were a few schools involved, and I didn't have much direction. I was the first person in my family to go to college.
Okay.
So
Cool.
really had very little guidance or direction from my parents or my mom and my stepdad at the time. And it was quite daunting. I'll tell you that the guidance counselor,
Yeah.
wasn't much help. And so I had scored well on not my SAT, but my PSAT, and then my ACTs were pretty good. I actually fell asleep taking my SAT. Long story. Anyway. Yeah.
Okay.
So, that PSAT score got me into the running for, I don't know what the heck is it? The National Merit Honor, whatever, Honor Merit, I don't know. You get the little shield with the, hey, you're smart thing on it.
Yeah, that thing.
So, yeah, that thing.
I never got anything like that.
No, I know. I sound smart. I'm not. Oh, wait, I don't even sound smart right now. Anyway, if you're a National Merit Scholar, there you go, National Merit Scholar, whether you are a finalist or I didn't actually make it up the deal because I guess you have to pay money to get that. My family,
Yeah.
we didn't have a lot of money at the time. So anyhow, there was the person who invented the Phillips head screwdriver
Okay.
was from Waxahachie and went to Baylor. And they set up a scholarship for students from Waxahachie who went to Baylor who were in the National Merit Program. So I was able to get it, and it was a small scholarship. It wasn't anything huge.
Still, that's pretty rad.
Yeah. And I got a couple of grants and whatnot. And at the time, I thought I wanted to go to law school, and I didn't understand the difference between undergrad and graduate schools and whatnot. I just knew that Baylor had a good law school, and so, well, why wouldn't I just go to college there and then go to law school there? Made sense to me.
Right.
So anyway, got a scholarship and got a couple of grants and got in there and
Yeah.
made the best of it.
That's pretty rad.
So
you said originally you were going to go to law school.
well, I thought I wanted to.
Right.
Yeah.
So is that what you started out at? And did you switch or did you follow through?
No. No.
That's what I figured.
No. So when I got there, I was like, well, I want to keep playing football. I think I'm done with this injury. So I went and talked to the coaches about walking on, and they're like, you're kind of small. I'm like, yeah, but I'm fast.
Right.
So that really didn't work out. Started like off-season workouts and stuff, and just you realize quickly that you really are too small for that level.
Right, yeah.
And you're going to get hurt again.
Yeah, that's no fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but during all that time, I was taking some poli-sci classes, and I was just like, oh, this is awful. Thinking, setting myself up in that pre-law kind of thing. And I got lost. I got lost in school and not trying to. So I shifted over to speech communications.
Okay.
We call it football phonics. So my degree is actually in speech communication, and I have at the time Baylor didn't offer minors. I guess they do now, but I took several classes in marketing also.
Okay.
So, and just a hodgepodge of different classes. I figured college was there to be an experience. And so I took all kinds of different things. It took 2 years of German classes. And I'd taken German in high school too. But like, you have to take physical fitness credits. So like I took sailing, learned how to sail. It was kind of cool.
Baylor.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know, right?
A lot of water around there.
On the Brazos River, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a good time. I did some other things there too. I was actually, and people make fun of me, but I have a good comeback. I was actually a dancer.
Okay.
Yeah. So no, not that kind of dancer.
I was going to ask.
I know, because I know Sean's going to listen to this. He's going to be like, "Oh, how many dollar bills did you get?" No.
Come on, Jonathan. Don't say
Yeah,
that.
Jonathan. But no, I'd taken dance as a little kid, and kids make fun of you, and so I was like, okay, well, I'm not doing this anymore. So I kind of got back into it for the flexibility part of it, and during that off-season football training, and I was trying to get faster, and just try to not get injured. So very long roundabout story about how I got in there. But anyway, there was a local studio, and they were looking for guys to come in and help lift the girls so that they could go to competitions and win.
Yeah.
So, okay, I can do that. I can pick up girls. No worries. And so I ended up really liking it, really enjoying it. Got pretty good at it. Spent all 4 years of college. If I wasn't in class or working, I was at the studio. And they provided me with free training. And my exchange was I would do some maintenance at the studio and go to their competitions for them. Yeah.
That seems like a pretty good deal.
Yeah. And in the end, I actually went to Chicago and auditioned for a professional company up there. And I was one of 7 guys out of 70 some odd guys that were there to get a spot.
So you actually work professionally?
Well, not up there.
Okay.
So about 3 weeks before I was supposed to leave, I dislocated my knee. And
oh no.
that's all right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
really can't get jiggy with it with a bad knee.
Nah, so that fell through.
That's too bad, man.
Yeah. But it changed the course of my life.
Okay.
So I was literally, I just graduated from college. I had no job, no prospect now. And I was like, and my knee's messed up. I'm staying at my old roommate's apartment. I'm like, what the heck am I going to do?
Right, yeah.
Trying to keep it PG for you.
This is a big boy podcast. If big boy words come out, it's totally fine.
So, what am I going to do? And my mom at the time, she'd been divorced from my stepfather for a little while, and she was having problems with her boyfriend. And she decided she was going to move back to Florida, and I said, well, I'll come down and help you pack up, and I'll move you down there. And so that's what we did. And, nothing like moving back in with your parents after you graduate from college.
I think that's probably more common than you think, though.
I know.
Yeah.
And anyway, but it was good, though, because it allowed me to spend some time with my father, who was still in Florida.
Yeah.
He had his own business, and I got to work for him. I rehabbed my knee on my own. Didn't really have health insurance or any of that stuff. And I ended up dancing again for a studio there in Tampa, and I went around auditioning and got some, small things, but nothing big. And my mom's like, yeah, your brother's in the Navy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want to go in the Navy. What am I going to do in the Navy? So I ended up joining the Navy. Yeah.
So we just skipped over, like, in a half a sentence, like, a whole bunch of stuff, it seems like, right?
Oh, yeah, there's a bunch.
So we got to, like, throw this thing in reverse for a second. So you go to Tampa and you audition, you get some jobs. So, I mean, you're saying you like dancing and stuff. So, I mean, there's a lot of different styles,
Yeah.
if you will. So, I mean, this is now kind of a professional role, right? You're getting kind of paid or
Oh yeah,
looking at it as a professional.
I'd
Right.
had some chances to get paid.
Was it like kind of a Broadway thing
Yeah,
esque, or was it kind of like music videos or something?
right.
I'm just throwing in like because I don't know, so
Yeah.
I'm just kind of trying to fill in the gap in my head here.
Yeah. So I was trained in ballet, jazz, tap, modern,
Okay.
and I did. I guess I did a lot of jazz, so that musical theater kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, um, but that's pretty much. I mean, that's pretty much it.
Right. So for all the ladies that are watching and looking at you, there's no like Magic Mike moments for you, right? So
I didn't send you those pictures.
that's a good thing.
Eh,
Yeah. So, anyways, we're going around. So, but yeah, so you did that, and then your mom was like, "Hey, your brother's
yeah.
in the Navy." So, was this like a conversation having? Did you talk to your brother about it? Did you go to like maybe other branches, or was it just?
Yeah, I looked at other branches. We had some friends of the family too that were Navy, and my uncle had been in Navy, and so it was just, I don't know, just kind of the way it went.
Yeah.
If I had to do it all over again, I don't know if I'd do the same thing or not, as far as service choice. But it worked out well. I had a really good career.
Yeah.
It was all said and done.
So, how old were you when you decided to go in?
I was 21.
Mm-hmm.
I turned 22 in boot camp. So a lot of people will say, well, wait, you had your degree. What, you enlisted? Yeah, I enlisted.
Okay, because you're answering a question I was about to bring up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, would you like to ask a question?
Hey, so you had a college degree and you enlisted?
I did.
Okay.
I did. So at the time, there was a massive drawdown. I graduated college in 91. Between 91 and like 95, they were drawing down the force. And the only officers they were taking were people with significant mathematics and science backgrounds and whatnot.
Okay.
And I can't add 2 and 2 and get 5. So, yeah.
Or 9.
Or 9,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah. But I tested to go to officer candidate school. And they're like, yeah, you passed, but there's better qualified. Okay, cool. Got it. And so I enlisted. And when I left boot camp, I left as an E3 because I had a degree, so you get promoted up. And I will say that I don't regret it at all. 100%. 100%. I think every officer should have to spend at least 2 years as an enlisted person first.
Really?
Yeah. That's JJ's opinion.
I think that's probably a pretty valid opinion, too.
Had I gone in right out of college, I would have been a horrible officer.
Yeah. Okay.
I learned a lot as an enlisted man. Yeah.
So that's definitely a good experience to have, and that kind of recollection of knowing both sides. Mm-hmm. Because eventually you did become an officer.
Mm-hmm.
So coming out of boot camp, you turned 22. 22 for everybody.
Yeah. That was kind of funny. The company commanders made everybody sing "Happy Birthday, Timmy."
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had to stand up on the freeboard. So for those of you non-initiated, non-Navy folks, the freeboard is a great big table in the middle of the barracks room that you would sit at for studies. That was the only time you were allowed to sit at it, though. And so they made me stand up on it and made the company sing "Happy Birthday, Timmy."
Was it good?
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. He said sarcastically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get out, you go in. So how did you get the job selection? Was it just, Was it one of your choices? Because you took the test, right?
Right.
And so they were like, oh, here's your list of jobs.
I went in telling them what I wanted to do.
Really?
Yeah. So I told them I wanted to be an well, actually, my first choice was a cryptologist, interpreter.
Yeah.
And timing and everything else, it just wasn't working out. I said, well, I want to be an intelligence specialist then.
Okay.
And I said, okay, right.
What led you to that? Like, I want this.
Again, friends of the family that were in the Navy, a couple of cryptologists and a couple ISs.
Okay.
So, and it just, well, yeah, that's what I want to do. Actually, it sounds pretty cool. I think the what I knew of the intelligence, what's the word I'm looking for? Just what you do there, like doing the research and digging up the history and then building the possible outcomes. Just for everything I'd been told, I was like, it felt right. It felt like that's what I should be doing probably.
Definitely struck your interest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then you go, how long was the schooling for that?
So we got, I'm trying to remember now. Wow, you're really taxing my brain.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah, I know, right? So what boot camp's like 3 months. I got there in August, got out in October, went to A school, intelligence specialist A school in Dam Neck, Virginia.
Okay.
Which is Dam Neck's really just part of Virginia Beach. Let's see. I graduated in March, January to March. So, another 3 months or so.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I went to a advanced school, a C school right out of that for operational intelligence. And basically that's just like indications and warnings, mostly systems-oriented stuff. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all in all, what, like 6 months or so between the two?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's probably about right.
Okay.
And then off to my first command in
Where?
San Diego.
Oh, in San Diego.
Yes.
Yeah, that seems like the place to go if you have to, right?
It was a good time, yeah.
Oh, I'm sure it was. Mm-hmm. And what were you doing down in San Diego? Was that before you were with the team too, or was that?
Well, that was later. I was an
way
officer
later.
at the time. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
On my research, I did. Yeah.
That's right. I was with VS-29. So VS-29 was a anti-submarine squadron when I first got there, and then by the time I left, we were a sea control squadron. So we flew in the S-3 Vikings.
Oh, okay.
So for those that don't know, the S-3 Viking is it's no longer in the fleet. I think NASA has a couple of them, but it's a 4-crew airplane. You sit side by side, front and back, and then it was originally designed to hunt for submarines. So using inverse synthetic aperture radar, FLIR, and magnetic anomaly detection. So they actually had a mad boom. And it was a carrier-based jet aircraft. Used the same engines that the A-10 uses, the TF-34 Alphas.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but it could fly low and slow and turn really well. So it was a neat airplane. That's what the squadron did, and it had an intelligence specialist assigned to each of the squadrons, and we. Our primary role was when we got to the ship. So, when the ship's not deployed, the squadrons have to go back to their bases, and we just happened to be at North Island in San Diego. So it wasn't too bad. And when we deployed on the ship, we would be, for the intelligence personnel, we would be assigned to the Carrier Intel Center, and we would work for the ship's intelligence officer pretty much. There was also an air wing intelligence officer, and we helped support the briefings for the aviators. We would help debrief the aviators. At one point, I was actually pulled from my job to become a debriefing officer because we were running out of, because of realignments with the squadrons and whatnot. We had fewer intelligence officers at each squadron than we used to have, and so they were trying to fill spots. So they picked a couple of senior enlisted guys to come and do the debriefings. So the pilots would go out fly, and they'd come back, and you debrief them on what they did, and you write up a mission report for that.
Okay,
So,
seems pretty normal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you were saying you were on a ship for a while?
Yeah.
That's.
Yep.
I think Sean told me you were never on a ship.
Yeah, he would.
Yeah.
He would. He was not on a real ship, so it's okay.
Oh, so literally shots across the bow right there.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So, but it was pretty cool. Actually, I got backseat qualified, and they let me fly in the jets.
That's rad.
It was pretty neat. I held the distinction at the time of being the only backseat qualified IS in jet aircraft.
No kidding.
Yeah, in the whole freaking fleet. So, yeah.
So that's some bragging terms right there, you know.
That's right. Yeah. So it was kind of cool. I got to fly off the boat, so I had 8 cat shots and 8 traps, and some of them, most of it was just good deal stuff. One time I was out there and actually had something to do, like a mission. It was kind of cool.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this explains a lot to me because when you and I first started texting and talking, I was like, throw me some pictures to use for A, B, or C, right? And so you sent me, I was like, hey, send me like 2 or 3. And it was just like, bam, 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 bam. I'm like, okay. So lack of a better term, you sent me like 292.
Yeah, okay.
I think you sent me like 10, 15 or something like
probably.
that. So I'm kind of going through them. And this was actually one point because I was going through and I saw you like in a flight suit.
Yeah.
And I was like, hold up here. I'm confused all of a sudden, right? And then it looked like you're on a boat. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, now I'm more confused because you and I really haven't had a lot of one-on-one or conversation time, right? Yeah. I think we met last year at Giant Loop.
Yeah.
And then I don't believe you went with us to the Alvord that day.
Yeah.
And then 9/11 this year, there was an event locally. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much our quote-unquote relationship that we have. So I'm getting these pictures, and I get some things of Sean, and I'm kind of listening to what he has to say, and then I'm going through your pictures, and I'm just like, okay, what?
Yeah.
Okay, here's this, and here's this. And then I see other pictures, and I'm like, I text Sean immediately. I'm like, bro, what does this mean? My phone instantly rang, and I'm like, okay, this is good. I need some more show prep. So he's kind of letting me in, and then what you're kind of saying is like, we're going down a different trail, So this is great,
Well, yeah, it was a different time. I'd tell you, when I was enlisted, so I did 2 deployments, 93 and 95 on the Lincoln.
Okay.
And then with VS-29. And then we call it cross-decking. So it's when the air wing moves from one ship to another ship. So the Lincoln was going into yards. We needed another ship, so we moved to the Kitty Hawk.
That's famous.
And we did what's called a rim pack. And rim packs are basically they're a shorter deployment than a normal deployment, but we work with the Pacific Rim nations. Rim pack.
Yeah,
So,
got it.
There you go.
Yeah.
And it's a big combined exercise. So you get the Aussies, you get in Japan out there, Singapore will show up, South Korea sometimes. It's just a little hodgepodge of everything, and you're out there hanging around Hawaii, shooting at stuff.
Oh, darn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did those 3 deployments, and then I went to Officer Candidate School.
So the Officer Candidate School, what led everything up to? Was that a decision you made? Did somebody come to you and say, hey?
From the moment I got into boot camp, my company commander pulled me aside and he said, you need to think about going to Officer Candidate School.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, okay, we'll see. Because at the time, I was like, I just want to do my 4 years. I want to get, some benefits and get out. I just want to do my time and get my head straight, figure out what I'm going to do in my life, right?
Yeah.
Well, figuring out what I wanted to do in my life ended up being, a little bit longer than what I thought. So, but I got to the squadron, and all the officers in the squadron were great. It was hands down, probably personnel-wise, the best command I had in my entire career, as far as the people. They really took me under their wings. That's why I got to fly. They were trying to get me to go to flight school. Go to officer candidate school, and then into flight school.
Oh, no kidding.
And we put in 2 officer candidate packages before I finally got accepted.
Okay, so it's kind of like a selection process.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And so, they're like, they called me in to the ward room. The ward room is where all the officers kind of meet, right? And they called me in one day, and, I thought I was going to get an award or something. I knew I wasn't in trouble, but it was kind of neat. The XO, the executive officer, calls me up there and congratulates me, and then he calls me, ensign select, and I was like, holy smokes.
So you made it.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. How long from that moment to actually being in school was it?
Actually, it was pretty short timeline. So it was only about a couple months before I needed to be in Pensacola for officer candidate school.
Okay.
So I got down there in November of '96 when we started, and I was commissioned in February of '97.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Not too long then.
Yeah.
And then once you graduated from there, where did you go?
From there, I went into flight training. I was going to be a backseater, naval flight officer, and I got MPQ'd, not physically qualified for flight duty. I just kept getting sick in the damn plane. I just couldn't. When you're sitting in the back, you get your head down and you're trying to do the navigation stuff and everything. You're looking at your kneeboard card and doing all the calculations. Meanwhile, the plane's doing all this.
Yeah.
It was awful. It was horrible. And, I'd been an intelligence person, and I called up some folks that I knew and asked them to, hey, put in a word for me, please, because they weren't allowing, if you rocked out for because you couldn't hack it mentally, whatever, you couldn't academically, I should say, then you were done. You were going to be assigned to an aircraft carrier as a fuels officer and non-designated aviation, and you were going to be done.
Oh, man.
So I got out because of the medical stuff, and even that wasn't a shoe-in. So I had to push a package up to get selected back to Intel, and I did. And I went back to Virginia Beach for Intel officer school training. And it was a lot like enlisted Intel training. Okay, I can do this again.
Hey, we're here, yeah.
Yeah. So this is where the SEAL team comes in, though. So I'm coming up to graduation for that, and you can put in for different open slots all over, right, where you want to go, but it still needs it in the Navy. One of the openings was at SEAL Team 2, and they're actually on the East Coast. All the even-numbered teams are East Coast. So it was an 03 position. So in the Navy, a lieutenant, most of the other services, a captain, right? And they were having a hard time filling it. They couldn't get it filled. So I will say back then, being an intelligence officer at a SEAL team is very different than what it is now. And part of that transition happened in September 11th, when September 11th happened.
Yeah.
So I got to, it was me, and 2 other guys put our name in the hat. So we'll go. We want to do this, and I got picked. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
You know, got picked. Got there in November of '98, and I left there in December of 2001. So September 11th had happened while I was there. Everything changed immediately. And I tried to stay, but Navy wasn't having it. Navy said, no, you're going. But while I was there, I learned a lot because I went from an ensign, an 01E, because I'd gotten my good conduct while I was in. I was enlisted for 5 years, and so I got that E designation, which you hold until you make 04. Once you 04, then that goes away. But from ensign to lieutenant, so my formative years, if you will, as a junior officer, were spent at a SEAL team.
Which seems a little unusual.
Right, yeah. A little bit, quite a bit different than my contemporaries who went to squadrons and were, briefing and debriefing officers for their squadrons, or you go to a watch floor, one of the big watch floors like in Jack Molesworth in England or JICPAC in Hawaii or wherever. A few people go to ships, go to aircraft carrier, your ship's company, and that it was very different for me, and I was warned about it. Well, this is going to kill your career. You're never going to have a career if you do this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't care.
Yeah. I don't think that was right. Yeah. So you get there, and that I believe that's still in Virginia Beach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where that is.
Yeah.
I again, just my only recollection is I spent some time over there trucking, and so I've been to a few bars or whatever over there, and you're like, I think I'm the only non-military guy here.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, just kind of looking around. It's like kind of crazy. But so was it when you got into the team there, was it kind of a storybook? Like you had this perception of what it was going to be like, or were you in long enough to be like, man, this is exactly what I think? Exactly what I thought.
I wouldn't say storybook. There were definitely some things that surprised me. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
I'll say this, SEALs, special operators in general, I had an opportunity to work with ODA team in Kosovo as well. Special operators are just built a little differently. They think a little differently. And as an intelligence officer coming into that, you're not a SEAL. You'll never be a SEAL until you go to BUDS and then go through the training curriculum and get your trident. That's when you're a SEAL.
Right?
And so at no point was I disillusioned. Like no point did I walk in there going, "Hey guys, what's going on? Let's go have a beer." Because I knew that wasn't how it was going to be.
Right. Yeah.
Any respect you get is respect you earn. You start by PTing with them. If you can go out and PT with them and at least try to hang with them, then that'll get you a little bit of respect. And then doing your job the right way is how you get the rest of it. So, and it's the 3 years I was there, I spent 3 years trying to get their respect.
Yeah.
So, I think I did all right.
I
did all right. I've been in contact with some of those guys over the years, and yeah, things were good.
Yeah. I listened to just a couple podcasts. So, I mean, any kind of recognition that I would have for that kind of a community is like, listen, for example, like Jocko Willing's podcast.
Jocko was actually at SEAL Team too. I worked with him.
This literally was going to be my question because I know his history and stuff, and I was like,
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. But listening to some of his and hearing how, I can't remember what episode it was, but he was saying something about the intelligence officers and how they would bring, here's what we got for you guys, and then he would take it to his guys, and do the planning or whatever. And in fact, it's actually, I think, in one of his books, Extreme Ownership or something. Because I listened to that book because as a business owner, I'm like, okay, hit me up with some of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it was just kind of talking about how to build the team leadership up, and it was using an example and stuff. So you're sitting here talking about that. Now it's like, okay, you did work with the guy, and it's just like, it all makes a little bit more sense, and kind of how all that works. So many questions, but I don't know how to go with it,
Yeah.
So, so you were there for 3 years, and you were there during 9/11, and you said everything changed that. So on the morning of 9/11, so I asked pretty much anybody in the military during that time, like, tell me about that day,
Yeah. So we'd gone out for a PT, and that day I was out with the techs. So if you're non-SEAL, you're a tech. And I was out with the techs PTing, and we were all filtering in, and it was a little bit later in the morning. I'd been outside and was doing something, and I came back across the quarterdeck, and the quarterdeck watch, it's like, hey, LT, a plane just crashed into one of the Twin Towers in New York. I'm like, what? And so I'm looking at the TV. They're on the quarterdeck, and as I'm watching it, they've got the camera panned up, and they're showing the tower. And I saw the other plane, just boom. And I was like, oh my God. And the XO comes running out. He looks at me, he goes, get in my office, we're under attack. So both the CO and the XO had just come from DevGru, for SEAL Team 6 for the uninitiated, right? Okay. Naval Special Warfare Development Group. Can we lose another one?
That's fine.
That's all right. Anyway, so they had intelligence knowledge, as operators from that unit that I didn't have. I wouldn't have had access to. Mm-hmm. And they knew right away what was going on. And basically they were like, they give me a list of stuff. You need to know this person, you need to know this, and get smart on it right now. And while that's going on, we literally, so you have at the time you had team 2, you had team 4, you had team 8, and then you had the small boat unit there too as well. And we're in this one big compound, right? We took buses. We got the buses out of the compound that they used to go, to training and whatnot. And every vehicle we could get, and we built a perimeter around the compound. And we guys armed up. We pulled weapons out of the locker, and every civilian on the base was kicked off the base. The base went into lockdown. The scariest thing was realizing that compound was literally right under the approach pattern for Norfolk International Airport. We had planes flying over us all day long, at just a few hundred feet. And until all the planes were grounded, planes were still coming in, and they were coming in, quick.
Holy moly. Yeah.
And we're just like, had the homework been done, you could have taken out majority of the SEALs on the East Coast. So
I'm surprised they're allowing the planes to fly over the base.
yeah, it's just just kind of the way it is. You know?
Yeah.
So I don't think anything's changed.
So we didn't say anything about that first part where you could take out so many the SEAL teams off that way, off the inbound flights.
Yeah.
Yeah. Holy hell, man.
Yeah.
That definitely seems sketchy. So then I would imagine things, especially being with special operators, things were probably kicking up
Yep.
pretty quick there.
Yep. And I'd been working hard to change. Remember I said at the time when I went there, being an intelligence officer at a SEAL team is very different than what it is now.
Yeah.
Back then, you didn't deploy, you didn't go anywhere, you really didn't do anything. You sat there in Virginia Beach and helped the training cadre, build up training plans. You kept the chart vault filled with maps and charts, and you managed the camera equipment, kind of. That was about it. So I pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed, and finally got to deploy to Kosovo, and I actually went out with them, and I learned there were some Army intel guys there assigned to the Tactical Operations Center, and we did so much, and getting to do that really learned on what they needed, because going through intelligence training in Virginia Beach, they don't teach you how to support these guys. They teach you how to support aviators, right? Aviators are looking at a target from 30,000 feet, 20,000 feet or lower, at times, but it's very different. When you're talking about special operators, they need to know what side of the door are the hinges on. What's the door made of? Are there animals there? Are there dogs? Are there chickens? Are there kids on site? All these different little things, that when you're in an airplane you don't care about because you're dropping a 2,000-pound bomb on it anyway, right?
Right, yeah. So,
it's a different mindset, and it took me a while to get that, but having the opportunity to deploy to Kosovo and work with, I was lucky enough to work with actually my platoons, guys from my team, and then a couple of ODA teams that were there, and working with them and figuring out exactly what they needed. That was huge. And not that it became the model for deploying intelligence people going forward, because intel people deployed before, but it was very rare. And what they were doing is they were picking, they called them IAs, individual augmentees. So they were picking people from a squadron. So my argument was, instead of picking people from a squadron that didn't know how to support the SEALs and deploying them to Kosovo, why don't you send me? I've been working with these guys for a year and a half now. I have a better idea what they need than that person from a squadron that has no clue.
right.
Yeah, it was I don't know. It's the government, and they're here to help, right? So anyway, I made that argument, and finally broke through that wall. Stop sending individual augmentees. Send the people that are assigned to the teams.
Right.
That just made sense to me. I don't know. Call me crazy. Anyway.
Hey, crazy.
Hey, crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of things that make sense that they just don't do.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I think we jumped from September 11th back to that. But
Yeah, that's all right.
the point is that on that day, the focus changed, and it changed for special warfare. It changed for intelligence. It really changed for the military in general. We went from, at least in the Navy, we went from being very focused on Iraq, and that part to a whole different fight in Afghanistan, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. It seems like there was a big change in the model there even that I noticed.
It was. Well, we went from being very strike warfare, which is aviation, carrier aviation, strike warfare focused, to being special ops, more surgical aviation strikes. Maybe we still drop large ordnance, but smaller ordnance, smaller packages. Quick in, quick out.
Right. So. I forget who I was listening to, but they were kind of talking about how warfare has changed. Might have been Evan Hafer or something I was listening to talk about it, but he was really talking about special operators across the board, from the SEALs to Delta to whatever, and he was talking about how we've gone from mass platoons or whatever, or companies going in, to more of dropping in with parachutes or coming in out of the water or whatever, and just doing something really quick and then poof, gone, disappearing and stuff. And I would imagine that's a direct reflection of the 9/11 and everything, and just technology in general. Yeah. So pretty wild. So you went from the SEAL teams, or team number 2. What was the next journey of your career?
So I actually kind of went from Team 2, and I went to an Air Wing staff, Carrier Air Wing 8.
Okay.
And so, because, you can't have just 10 squadrons running around without supervision. So they have to have a staff over them. Right.
Right.
So that's what I did, and I was the imagery officer. So I worked with our targeteer a lot to provide imagery packages. I also did the battle damage assessments. So for every strike that went in, I had to review their tapes, decide whether or not it was a hit on the target, and I'd pass it off to one of the other officers, and they would look at battle damage effects, and then all that would go to CENTCOM, and CENTCOM would take it from there and decide whether or not the target was destroyed or whether or not we need to reattack or whatever.
Okay.
So at the time, Carrier Air Wing 8 was assigned to the Theodore Roosevelt, and we deployed. We went on a workup. And before we left, though, we were told, pack for a deployment. But it was supposed to be a 3-week workup, ended up being about a 4.5-month deployment.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
So we were down off the coast of Puerto Rico doing our workup, and we got the word, you're heading east fast. And we got over to the Mediterranean, and there was a lot of jockeying going around politically, whether or not we could go through the ditch to the Red Sea, and then were we going to go into the Gulf, were we going to go from the Red Sea, were we going to go from the Med. So we ended up, I'm taxing my memory now because we did both. So I think the initial strikes that we launched went from the Med, and so they flew over Turkey into northern Iraq. And our guys were basically trying to take out strategic targets in northern Iraq and supporting special operations guys on the ground. So if they had a call for fire, hey, there's a convoy, we need you to take it out. They'd send us the coordinates, and our guys go drop. So we did that. I think we did that. I might have this backwards. I don't remember. And then we went into the Red Sea, and we flew missions from there. I think we started there and then went up. Anyway, we ended up in the Med and flying most of the sorties from the Med over Turkey, and into northern Iraq. So for about 28 days, I was getting about 2 to 3 hours of sleep a day. And never saw the daylight because our packages were going at night.
Yeah.
So I remember the first time I saw the sunlight. We were coming off station, and I went down into the hangar bay, and they had the doors open, and the sun's coming through, and I was just like, "Oh my God, what's that?" That was the kickoff in Iraq.
Yeah.
And
So you said about 4 months on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The actual operations were I think about a month and a half, but just travel time and trying to figure out if we're going back or what we're doing.
Right.
So
I'd imagine a bit of the unknown for sure.
yeah,
Especially when they tell you, hey, we're going to do a workup, but, throw some extra underwear in too.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, man. So then you roll through there.
Mm-hmm.
You guys get back.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the next part?
Actually, it was pretty good downtime until my buddy Scott. He and I had gone through Intel officer training together.
Mm-hmm.
He was also a prior enlisted IS.
Okay.
So we got along pretty well. And then when we left Intel school, he went to Miami or Key West, I should say.
Okay.
Work with Jayada East over there. And then I went to the SEAL team, and then we reunited at CAG 8. Yep, we reunited at CAG 8, and so we'd gone through that deployment together and everything, and we're starting to look for our next job because it's really only a 2-year assignment.
Okay.
And so a year and a half into it, you're looking for your next gig. And he gets a call from a guy that had been our instructor. And he's like, hey, Scott, would you like to come to the Pentagon? I remember the Pentagon had been attacked. And on September 11th, when the Pentagon was attacked, then we lost our Navy Ops Center, and with that, we lost CNOIP, Chief of Naval Operations Intelligence Plot. You know this. You're at September 11th.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing. With that, we lost half of the staff there, and so immediately the Office of Naval Intelligence picked up those responsibilities because you can't just stop. You can't just stop operating. You can't stop providing intelligence.
Right.
So the Office of Naval Intelligence is in Suitland, Maryland, and they picked that up, and I think they worked out of the old Navy Yard building across the highway from the Pentagon, and then I believe they reconstituted everything over at O&I for a while. And so this was the first group coming back to the Pentagon after the rebuild. There were a couple folks there. Scott was invited, and I was like, I want to go do that. And he was on the phone with Keith Dunbar at the time, and Keith heard me. He's like, well, who's that? It's like, it's JJ. It's like, really? He wants to come too? All right. So we both got orders to go to CNOIP. And
that's kind of cool. It's just being in the background.
Yeah. Like, I want to go.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's go, man. That's cool.
So yeah, it was kind of neat. And CNOIP was the place that you went as a junior officer to make your name.
Okay, yeah.
That was, if you got selected, and you got selected, you just didn't go, hey, I want to go, and you get to go. I did.
I was going to say.
Yeah, you're a known quantity at that point. You're a senior junior officer. You've done your time.
A senior junior officer.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So you're a lieutenant. With you've done some things, right?
Right.
And you go, and the whole idea, why do we have these intel people at the Pentagon, right?
Right.
Because obviously the Pentagon. Never mind. I'm not even going to go there. But you stand. It's a 24/7 watch, and along with that, you're responsible for briefing the Navy staff, including the Chief of Naval Operations and anyone else. So I had the unique honor, I guess,
Okay.
of very, very briefly briefing Donald Rumsfeld, the Joint Chiefs, you know. So
That's big time.
yeah, but I mean, you know, it was a really short little thing,
Still.
you know, and it was involving when Katrina hit. We were actually called in to help, like, manage intelligence collection assets that could be used, because some can't be used, but the ones that could be used, and briefing about those to leadership. So Northcom handled all of the actual implementation. You know, this is how we're going to use them, right? Mm-hmm. So we were just like, well, they can be used this way. So that's all. Because you know, you don't want people get funny when you start talking about intelligence collection assets flying over the country collecting things.
They do?
They do.
That's weird. I have never heard that before.
I know, right? But it was good. It was really good. You know, one little sea story. I was just coming aboard as a briefing officer. You go through a whole workup to that, right? So I was still considered a baby briefer. Like, all right, fine. So but you're briefing the CNO and the staff. So my thing was, you walk in a room and there's more stars in there than there are in the Milky Way, right? Oh, yeah. It's a table full of admirals. The cool thing is that you and the operations briefing officer, 2 lieutenants, are the most junior people in the room, and you sit there through the whole meeting and you listen to all this stuff that all these admirals are talking about and how the direction of the Navy's going. You have access to discussions that, you know, no other junior officer in the Navy is going to have access to. Wow. It's pretty cool. But anyway, I'm just going to say my time there was short-lived. So we had a very highly classified briefing, and we couldn't just pipe it up to the screen from our office down below. So we carried it up on a laptop, and then we plugged in to the screen, and we showed our slides and went through the briefing. Along the way, you also make a briefing book, hard copy of all the slides that you're going to brief. There's a reason for that. So I get up there, and this is my first solo brief to the boss, right?
Yeah.
You know, when I flip the laptop open,
He's pushing buttons.
oh man, that laptop's dead, not going anywhere. And they're starting to walk in, so there's no time to like go get another one or anything. And the guy who's with me, because you always go up with a backup briefer, so that in case something happens to you or the equipment or whatever, you have somebody else to help. In my case, the backup briefer was a very senior guy, and I look at him, I'm like, what are we going to do? And he's like, go to the book. All right. So everybody gets their seats, you know, and at that day it was the vice chief of naval operations, and he sits back in his chair. It's like, go. I'm like, you know, good morning, sir. You know, I'm Lieutenant Morrell. I'll be the intelligence briefer this morning. You know, our laptop has died, and he's just like, yeah, okay. So I said, come up with the briefing book, and I start with slide 1, you know, this, that, and the other. And he just takes this book and grabs it, he puts it in his lap, basically, and starts flipping through all the slides on his own. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, on that day, the DNI, the Director of Navy Intelligence, Admiral Porterfield, great guy, by the way, he wanted to brief something specific the Russians were doing. And I couldn't tell what slide he was on, because he had the book in his lap, the vice chief. And so I'm like, so sir, if you turn back to slide 3, and he looks at me and goes, what's the matter, Lieutenant? Am I flipping through these too fast for you? And I look at him, just boom, right off the top of my head. Well, sir, you're the vice chief. I guess you can flip through that thing as quick as you want to. And he looks at me, he goes, oh, really? Well, thanks for your permission. And everybody starts laughing. You know, everybody's having a good time.
Right.
Except for my boss. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Your boss is like, hey, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoops.
So we finished the briefing, and it actually turned out, it worked out well. But, yeah.
Yeah, dude, I can only imagine the anxiety of trying to turn on that computer and nothing happening as people are starting to walk in.
Yeah.
Oh my
That was
gosh.
fun. That was fun. And, yeah, my '05 boss, my commander boss, who was down in the office, by the time I got down there, he's like, JJ, get in my office. I'm like, oh,
Oh no.
Goes, what did you do? And JW, the other briefing officer, comes in. He's like, "Oh, it wasn't like that, Bob. Come, this." He's like, "This is what happened."
Oh
Oh my
man.
God. He's like, "Wait, that's all that happened?" We're like, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay." So,
So he had the little, what was that, telephone game when you were a kid? By the time it got to him, it was like completely different.
oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Apparently, I'd like burn the book and on the table, and stripped down to my skivvies and did a dance or something. I don't know, but
Well, I mean, it goes back to the Magic Mike.
well, right. But yeah. So the quote was, "Okay, the admiral has made a decision to pull you from the briefing team for now, because he's just not sure what you're gonna say."
Oh man.
Like, all right, fine.
Sure.
So I became the operations officer for CNOIP at that point. And what was cool though is our fit reps were coming out. That's our annual review, right? They call it a fitness report. And I didn't know it at the time, but I was actually selected for early promotion. So they can only take a small percentage of the lieutenants that are assigned there and assign them for early promotion.
Oh wow.
And I knew fit reps were coming out. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is going to kill me, because the admiral signs those, right? This is going to destroy me. And I ended up with one of the 3 early promotes. So, it turned out not to be that bad, and there were some good laughs over the whole thing later on. But
I'm sure.
at the time, it was a little pucker factor going on there. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So, time frame now.
Yeah.
Just kind of put it all together. How many years in are you at this point?
Ooh, I'm about 10 years in.
Okay, so you're about a decade in.
Yeah.
So at this point, you've already made like a decision, like I'm in.
By the time I got to the Pentagon,
Yeah.
I was like, I'm in for the long run.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was some of the calculus involved in going to the Pentagon too.
Yeah.
Like, I need something that's gonna save me from being at the SEAL team, because even then, even though we were well into OEF, right, that still wasn't considered a good place to go.
All right.
So career-wise.
Okay.
But I made lieutenant commander while I was at the Pentagon, and then I went off to the Defense Intelligence Agency to get my master's degree.
Okay. We're going to step on that one, but I think we need to go back just a cooch.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
Because I think it's really easy for people, no matter who, when you're telling kind of like your story, right, to kind of bounce over some things. So you at the Pentagon, and that was for how long were you there?
About 3 years.
About 3 years. And then what was like day one, like walking in? Was this like, holy crap, I'm at the Pentagon? Or was it just like, another day at the office?
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
I would say day one, it's a little overwhelming. At one time, it was the largest office building in the world.
Yeah.
Square footage wise, and it is quite the maze. So it's physically imposing, right? And I think it was meant to be.
Yeah, you're probably right.
And then just the job itself, walking into that job and knowing the some of the people who had come before you, that were so far away from any front lines and were still killed, and that Admiral Porterfield was the DNI at the time when September 11th happened, and he expected absolute I'm not going to say perfection, but he expected absolute professionalism and absolute dedication to the mission. And the thing is we all did. Every one of us that were there at that time knew the names of the people who died, knew what had gone on that day in D.C., and knew that we had this overwhelming responsibility to, in some ways, get payback.
Yeah.
And make sure that what happened that day didn't happen again. So,
That's a pretty big job.
yeah. I
You
mean,
know, like, not only is the job important, but the way that you guys are taking it like, so this never happens again. It seems like that for the group of people that were working there, that is a pretty big, I don't want to say burden on the shoulders, but it's a pretty massive weight to be carrying around.
no.
You know.
And we had our dark humor times and whatnot, and
Yeah.
that's just something you do. I think. I think the military, law enforcement, firefighters, that kind of thing. Anybody that's in these stressful environments tends to go to that at times. But yeah, we definitely took our jobs very seriously.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
At any time walking in there, I mean, you said it was a little, walking in for the first time was that, well, I'm at the Pentagon, but it's another day at the office. And I'm sure at some point it just became another day at the office and walking in. You get into that routine, same, whatever, stairs, elevators, doors, and everything.
Yeah.
Was there a moment in there you're like, okay, this is cool? Like, and what I mean by that, like, maybe you saw somebody, and you're like, oh, that's pretty cool, or had a situation happen where you got to meet somebody, or just.
I think. I think seeing Rumsfeld in the racquetball courts, that was kind of cool at the Pentagon gym.
I didn't even know there was a gym there.
It's actually, yeah. They when they did the remodel, they built a whole new gym, and it was really nice.
Well, that's kind of
Yeah.
cool.
The old gym was not that great. I kind of another sea story. One of the cool things. I was part of the continuity of operations for the Navy staff, specifically the intelligence staff, and we had a alternate site that we go to if something happens. And when September 11th happened, that alternate site was woefully in decline. And so they spent from September 11th up till, they're probably still working on it, but, up till when I got there, I got to the Pentagon in 2000. When did I get to the Pentagon? When did I get to the Pentagon?
You got that right there, right?
Yeah,
Was that
2002?
2?
2004.
Okay.
So, but yeah, they'd been working on that alternate site all that time, and we would go up there occasionally, just as part of the work day. Drive up, check in, check the comms, the computers, make sure stuff worked. More often than not, it didn't. There were all kinds of connectivity issues and whatnot, right? This IP address is wrong, whatever. So they kind of got all things ironed out, and they wanted to hold a big COOP exercise, COOP continuity of operations. And when they said big exercise, they meant big exercise. We did a full-on evacuation.
Oh, wow.
It was pretty cool. Helicopters landing on the big parade deck that faces the Capitol, outside the Pentagon.
Okay.
So had helicopters spotting there, go out the doors, load up, and off to the alternate site. And that was, being a part of that was pretty cool.
That seems pretty cool.
That was pretty neat.
I think as a civilian, I would be like, man, did they like tell the community that this was going on? Because if not, you're just like, what in the hell is happening right now?
Right? Yeah.
You know, I'm turning the news on.
Yeah.
Anything going on that I need to know about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's funny is all the senior officers that got their got a red ass because they weren't selected to go. And I was like, well, you gonna do the work when you get there? I had that discussion with the Admiral's Chief of Staff, who was a captain in '06. And I said, sir, the existing list has a bunch of senior officers on it and only a couple of enlisted guys. I think we need to flip that. And he's like, he looked at it, he looks at me and he goes, you're right. Go put a list together and get it to me. So I did.
Yeah, we need to flip that around.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is.
You got people that, you're going to get there and nobody's going to know how to do the work.
Right. Yeah.
You just want to be saved. Like, sorry, dude.
A little bit more than just being safe part. There's actually work needs to be done.
Right.
So then, so about 3 years, you bounce out of there.
Yep.
And I forget what you went to.
I went to Defense Intelligence Agency.
Okay.
And they have now it's called the National Intelligence University, is based out of there.
And that's where you got your master's.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Yep.
How long were you there for?
That's 1 year.
That's a 1 year course?
A 1 year, yeah. Head down, get it done.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's incredible, actually. I can only imagine the tempo of that school.
Yeah.
And then you get out of there. Where'd you go next?
From there, I went to Expeditionary Strike Group 3. It was another staff. And expeditionary connotates Marine Corps. So basically the amphibious assault ships.
Okay.
And we worked closely with the Marines. The staff at the time, this was another one of those things that was in flux, right? At the time, they were primarily responsible for training, making sure that the ships and their crew were receiving the training that they required and could pass the assessments required before going on deployment. It was one of those jobs that you really shouldn't go to, right? So when I went there, we were still doing that, but we were also forward deploying to Bahrain, and the unit would deploy for a year. I was there for about 10 months. But the unit deployed out for a year. The reason I wasn't there was because I had to do the training assessment stuff before I left. And you go to Bahrain, and you are the task force elements. You're 4 different task force elements. One of those task force is responsible for the Northern Arabian Gulf and security up there. And so we work directly off of the Iraqi oil platforms, Khor Alamaya and Abot and Kayat. And I can't remember the other one right off the top of my head. But anyway, so we had built the U.S., the coalition forces had built a tactical operations center on Kayat, and you watch primarily the Iranians. They're literally a mile away.
Okay.
So, and you're on an oil platform in the middle of nowhere. So, we had that responsibility. We were the counter-piracy folks. So, all that piracy that was going on off the coast of Somalia in like 2008, that's when I was there. And we were also the primary task force responsible for any NEOs, non-combatant evacuation operations. So that's when a country goes sideways and you send in the Marines and whoever else to get American citizens out. Similar to, I don't know the scope of the operations, off the coast of Israel and Gaza right now to get and get civilians out. But the idea is you're going to get civilians out. That's why they call it non-combatant, because you want to go in peacefully. Like, hey, we're here in peace. We're going to kick your ass if we have to, but we don't want to. We just want to get our people out and go.
Right.
Anyway, we did all that. So the Captain Phillips thing.
Yeah.
Our staff planned that operation. We handed it off to, I think ESG2 when they came in to backfill us, and so they got all the glory for planning the operation. The SEALs really got the glory for taking the shots, because holy crap.
Yeah. Crazy shots.
Right?
Yeah.
If you've never seen the movie Captain Phillips,
Go watch
it. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Think about the ship and doing this, and then they still shoot.
Yeah.
It's just incredible.
At exactly the same time.
Right.
And they hit all 3 of their targets.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, just amazing.
Like you said earlier, different kind of person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. But that's kind of what we did. As far as deployments go, pretty cake deployment. I mean, honestly, if you're deployed to Bahrain, it's not tough duty. I'll just say that.
Pretty chill, huh?
Yeah. We had a couple of moments that were, kind of just as a staff, we got spun up. I remember we were all they have a little officers club there, and we were all there, and we were throwing back some beers and whatnot, and the phone rings. Even the admiral's with us, and so the chief of staff gets a phone call. The admiral shuts everybody up. He goes, "Okay, everybody meet back over at the office, like right now." So we get over there, and the Somalis had taken a Russian arms carrier, the motor vessel Fana, and this thing was loaded with all kinds of Russian armament.
Oh, no.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, everybody focuses on Captain Phillips and everything because, it's kind of a cool story. And this story, we got the, sorry, I got crap in the neck. we managed to get the ship back without too much follow, but there was a lot of back and forth, and everybody was concerned that they were going to drive that ship onto the beach and start offloading weapons. So
this story sounds very familiar to me. Like, is this where? Let me see if this is the correct deal. Where we came in on a helicopter, dropped some guys down on the deck, and then they took the new captain that was in control of it. Is this the same one where everybody was hiding underneath? The pirates were starting to hide underneath, and then they ended up, I think, shooting the captain because he drew on the guys or started shooting at him or something. Or am I thinking something totally different?
I think this one's different.
Okay.
I think that one's different.
Okay.
But
I heard some dude, again, I listen to so many podcasts. Sometimes they kind of bleed together. But there was some story about that where these guys came in, and the quote-unquote captain who took over the shot, I think he had an AK or something and brought it around to the guys when they're coming in the room or under the bridge or something. I don't.
That'll get you dropped.
Yeah. You probably don't want to do that with those guys. No. So, okay. So anyway, so I'm wrong on that story.
Hey, you're not wrong. It's just a different story.
Yeah, just different. So you did that for a while. Were you on the oil platform, or were you just overseeing it?
Did a few days on the oil platform, yeah.
Dude, that would be weird.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. I actually have a picture. I didn't send that one to you, but yeah.
Yeah.
It was weird being out there. And there's a lot of history on those oil platforms.
Yeah.
Because, during the 80s, the Iranians attacked them several times. We attacked them, too, in the first Gulf War in 91.
Okay.
We dropped stuff. And so there's holes, where like bombs went through the walkways and catwalks and stuff. Part of those are still considered like off limits because they're structurally not sound.
Oh man.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy.
But hey, let's go take observations from there, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
We'll run a whole operation off of there. So, but I think we since turned that back over to the Iraqis though. It's like, here you go. One cool thing that happened while I was there is, an Iraqi Marine, so naval infantry guy, not like our Marines, which by the way, happy birthday Marine Corps.
Yeah, that's right. It was yesterday.
Yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I traded a T-shirt for a flag that he made. It was an Iraqi flag, and he had sewn it all himself.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, it's hanging in my office at work. It's pretty cool.
That sounds pretty rad.
Pretty neat.
I'd love to see a picture of that.
That's pretty neat. Well, I was just going to say, some of the folks you run into surprise you. And I think there is a desire to embrace a nationalism, a national identity in some of these countries where you don't expect it, and most people don't see it. It's just kind of interesting.
The beauty of the human spirit, right? The following topic has been redacted, and we're going to jump forward to the next topic about 5-6 minutes ahead of here.
And while I was there, I was supposed to deploy to Afghanistan. I'd been dealing with a neck problem from, it cropped up when I was in Bahrain. It was pretty bad. And it's not like I got, in a helicopter crash or, got shot or anything like that. It's just, my body falling apart, I guess. I don't know. Anyway. So, they said, well, you can't deploy. You need to go get this looked at. So, okay, fine. So I go get it looked at. And the surgeon says, well, I can operate on it, but there's a 50-50 chance I make it worse than what it is. So can you live with it? Like,
oh, man.
Yeah. Well, the Navy and DIA didn't like that answer. And they said, so you're not deployable. I said, well, I'm not getting it operated on. It doesn't bother me all the time. Why would I do that? Well, then we can't take a chance of sending you downrange where this happens and you can't, lift your freaking arm. So when the military does something like that to you, makes it hard to promote sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I was looking at promotion. Plus, there were some administrative things that weren't handled well. And honestly, I have nobody to blame but myself. I can sit here and point fingers all day long.
Right.
But, in the end, it was my fault. I could have overcome it, but I was at a point where I was like, you know what? I'm done. I was at 20 years. There were some other circumstances going on, too. My wife was really sick at the time, dealing with some stuff, and just not everything being in flux.
Yeah.
I'm going to retire. I didn't want to move again. I was just, I was done.
Sounded like the right time.
Yeah.
Right. All the cards were like, all right,
Yeah.
move on to the next chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you got out, how long did it take you to transition to get out?
Well, the nuts and bolts of transitioning, you're talking about from the time I made that decision to the time I was actually retired?
Yeah, I would say, from the time you actually made that decision, there's a process, and I don't know if it's different from your job, your career field through there, to actually checking out for the last day.
No. It was about 8 months from the time I made the decision to when I actually retired.
Okay.
And I retired in 2012, so September 1st, the day before my birthday. It is what it is. The Navy, I think all the services now have a transition assistance program that you go through, and it's like 2 weeks of here's how you write a resume, and here's how you look for a job, and
Okay, that stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. But at the time, nowhere in there was, here's how you deal with this mentally.
That's
There was the hey, if you have a problem, call the VA. Right. Okay.
which sounds like an afterthought too. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
So you're getting out. You had your couple weeks or whatever, or your 8 month, 8 months,
Yeah. Well,
and then did you take some time just to chill, or were you like, I'm moving on to do something else?
yeah. My decision was to start moving on.
Mm-hmm.
That was a mistake in hindsight, I think.
And what was that?
It didn't give me time to really absorb, I guess, assess. I I needed some time. I needed some downtime, and
Yeah,
I didn't take that.
it's almost like a relationship, right? You get out and it's the rebound.
Yeah, yeah. So I started taking classes almost immediately, just something.
Yeah.
Or program manager type classes, which I quickly realized I absolutely hated program management.
You're like, I'm out of this.
This is horrible.
Yeah, man.
So, but I was doing those, and then it's like I need to work. You know, I gotta find something. So I got a part-time job at Home Depot, making $10.75 an hour.
Okay.
Which,
Yeah.
when you go from being a lieutenant commander in the Navy and making pretty good coin, and people call you sir and they salute you, and there's a modicum of respect there. Then you go to being a worker bee at Home Depot. It's
What do you mean you don't know where the galvanized nails are, man?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And our manager, he just probably wasn't the greatest personality for me at that time. I'll just say that.
That's actually a very mature way to say it too.
So
Good for you at the time. So you did your Home Depot stint,
yeah,
and you realized that this class isn't for me.
yeah.
So then, at what point in life? Because I know motorcycles came in later,
Oh yeah.
and I don't think in your life timeline we're even there yet.
Nah, not even close.
Yeah. So you get out after 20 years. So what, you're 41, 42 at the time, somewhere in
Yeah.
that ballpark.
Yeah.
And then at what point was the Secret Service like a thought? Was that something you were like, hey, I want to do this? Or was it like somebody you knew, or did they come to you, or how did that all just kind of come about?
So I left Home Depot and I worked for Cambia Health, and I was actually recruited to that job through LinkedIn.
Okay.
And it was a little subgroup of Cambia Health called BaseFit. And the mission of BaseFit was to teach resiliency concepts to National Guard and reservists.
Okay.
So they brought me on as a coach. And I would travel around and we would work with National Guard and reservists on nutrition, fitness, sleep, and then basic resilience techniques, mindfulness techniques, and try to get them. At the time, the military was more concerned about those folks passing their physical fitness tests than anything. But we were trying to show them that passing the physical fitness test is just part of it, and that they're not going to be able to maintain that. There's other issues here, and there's other issues that every soldier can, or sailor, or airman, or whoever can take on board and use, right, to just be better overall. Anyway, so that's what I was doing between Home Depot and the Secret Service, and that lasted about 2.5, 3 years. And then the company kind of lost its contract with the military, and I was like, well, so we're not doing military anymore. I bet we could sell this to law enforcement, and so we were able to do that. My boss liked the idea. We retooled it and did a couple of engagements with law enforcement, but the big company really didn't see the value in it, and so it went away.
Yeah.
And it was during that time that I was like, I need to find a job. So I get online, I'm looking around, and there's just not a lot in the Portland area for retired intelligence officers. Just, what the hell am I going to do?
Yeah.
So I got on USA Jobs. I'm looking around. Secret Service administrative officer. Pff, I could do that, right? So I put my application in, and a lot of back and forth. It takes forever to get hired. Oh my God, it took forever to get hired. And it was kind of stressful, but I got hired on. And they said, "Have you ever been an administrative officer?" And I said, "No, but I had one work for me once." Okay. So I've had to be reminded a couple times that I'm not the boss. So,
Right. Yeah.
okay, that's fine. Yeah, and so basically I'm a glorified office manager right now.
Yeah.
So I pay the bills and maintain the fleet, our cars and whatnot, and help with travel stuff. And just, I do a few things that other admin officers probably don't do. I've been out on search warrants to catalog evidence.
Oh, wow. Okay.
What else? I do some employment interviews. So I've been, I also go, I'll go out and give counterfeit briefings on how to, for counterfeit money.
Mm-hmm.
How to identify counterfeit, what to do with it when you find it. This is real money. This is fake money. Quit messing it up. You'd be surprised how many bank tellers absolutely can't tell the difference.
Oh, man. So if you find a counterfeit, you just put it in a Monopoly box?
Yeah, right. So it depends. There's different things we do with counterfeit. I have to be kind of careful what I say here, but
Yeah. Don't get in trouble by any means.
yeah, I'll just say that the current, there's currently no real push to investigate or not really investigate, but prosecute. Let's use that word. No real push to prosecute any counterfeit cases unless it's really, really, really big. Well, building a really, really big case for counterfeiters takes a lot of time and a lot of resources. So,
Didn't know that. I'm always under that stigmata, man. If you get caught with one, you're going to jail.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just
Yeah. We'll move on from that because I can tell there's a little bit of the word struggle there. So we don't want to by any means. So we have a pretty good timeline of JJ, right? All the way from, kicking around in the Tampa area all the way up to now, right? So at some point you're wearing the shirt and the flag is here, right? The Veterans Back 40, it's something that I proudly support, right?
Yeah.
And I think Sean, that we've brought up a couple times, who was on actually episode 1, had a little flag that he has in his house. And it was just like, dude, this is a little tiny, but he needed it back. And of course, I was just like, oh, I'll just borrow it. It'd be cool. So he gave it back and he's like, I got one for you. So I guess he ordered this. I don't know if he ordered a whole bunch of these flags or what, or if it was a one-off or something, but
I think we ordered a couple of those.
I think it was super rad when he gave it to me. He's like, this is yours. And I'm like,
Oh yeah, it was specifically for you.
I friggin' appreciate that. So for the people that don't know, you're the sitting president currently.
Yeah, we're getting ready to go through a reorg, and so I'm a board member.
Okay.
Sure.
So you're the big board member at the time.
All right.
Right.
Try. Yeah.
And so basically the Veterans Back 40, the VB40.org, right?
Right. VB40ADV.
ADV.org. Okay, perfect.
Yep.
And that is the place where you can go donate. That's a place you can find information.
Yeah.
And basically it is, you take veterans, and it's more motorcycle specific. But I believe there's some other aspects that maybe in the past or something. I might be a little misspoken on that, but for the most part, it's adventure motorcycle stuff.
Yeah.
And which kind of brings me kind of in a whole circle of stuff right here, right? So, one, I'm interested how you met Sean, if it was all through here, and then Brian, who apparently yesterday, since it was a Marine Corps birthday, had a huge cake of orange color crowns. 'Cause apparently, those are his favorite. And just all those guys coming together. But we also have to, before we get to that, we have to step back to when did you be like, or when were you like, hey, man, motorcycles. I like these things. I want to go ride.
Right. So I guess my first interactions with anything motorsport-ish was when I was in Louisiana. I had some friends down the street, and they had a couple little dirt bikes, and they had, you remember the Honda Big 10?
No.
No.
Oh, with the big, was it the
three-wheeler?
Yeah.
Three-wheeler, right? With the big wheels, and if you've got your foot too low, it'd drag you underneath it and run you over. Yeah. So, I never had my own. My mom was terrified of them. You're never getting on. No, my God, no, you can't have a motorcycle. Okay, fine. So, and even me growing up, I mean, my dad, who I really didn't have a good relationship with until I was 18 or so.
Okay.
He had Harleys. He had a couple of different Harleys, but he didn't even start riding until he was in his 40s. So it was just something that was never in my life, and I always thought, oh my God, they're just two-wheel death machines, right?
All right, the stigmata.
Right.
Yep.
So I was 50, I guess, and well, let's get to how I met Sean first. So I met Sean through the VFW.
Because this is all.
Yeah. So I met Sean through the VFW.
Okay.
Veterans of Foreign Wars.
And that's the Oregon City one.
Yep.
1324.
Yeah. Post 1324, Three Rivers. So I met him through that, and we were just friends. We were close in age, and we get along pretty well most of the time. Sean. Anyway,
The bearded wonder.
I love you, brother. There was another person at the post who is no longer there. He lives in Texas now because he couldn't stand Oregon. But he was an old Vietnam era Marine. And I say Vietnam era, but he was a Vietnam veteran. He did some cool stuff. He does not like to talk about it. He was a black hat Special Forces Marine. And he did some stuff. Anyway, he's the real deal.
Okay.
He has a silver star. So
okay, there we go.
Yeah. So anyway, he's a Harley rider, and I think he and Sean probably got together and was like, we need to get JJ on a motorcycle. So DJ would take me. We'd meet up at Clackamas Community College, and he would put me on his Harley and said go. And I'd ridden motorcycles before, but I didn't grow up on them, and I certainly didn't have any recent experience. He literally put me on his Harley, and I was like, okay, just go.
Time to go.
Time to go. And so, his thing was anybody can ride fast, but you're going to learn to ride slow.
That is so smart.
Yep. And so we had cones. I bought cones. We did cones and went out there, and we tried to recreate the Oregon, the training.
Yeah, for Team Oregon over there.
Yeah, Team Oregon stuff. Yeah. We tried to recreate that as best we could, and then some other stuff that, that he, through his decades of riding, had come to know. And then Sean would come out there and he would ride with me. And then I got to a point where, DJ's like, okay, you guys go ride. We just take off and go ride. That's how you learn. You learn by doing.
Okay, yeah.
So we did that. I got my endorsement, and my first bike was a KTM 390 Adventure.
Little bike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little bike, but even it's KTM, and my joke with KTM is keeps taking money, right?
No, that's 100%. Because 90% of the people are giving the money to the shops because they're always broken down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And I had problems with that little bike even.
Yeah.
I will say this, I think, and this is where Sean kind of came in, and Sean's like, this would be a good bike for you to start on. It's only like 400 pounds. So it's not super heavy. It's easy to ride.
And balanced well.
Yeah. It was a good little bike. I did a lot of stuff on it,
Right.
I'll tell you that if you met Jake Murray.
Oh yeah, I know Jake.
You know Jake. Yeah, that's right. You know
Yeah.
Jake. Duh. My bad. So, Murray took a group out, and we were like out there for like 10, 11 hours. And so I rode that 390 from my house in Estacada all the way out there to the west side,
Out to his house.
I don't remember where we met, like the Stilettes or whatever out there. And then all these gravel roads and dirt roads. And finally we hit this stretch of mud. It was like a 400-foot drop on my left side. And we had stopped, and I forgot to reset or turn off my traction control. And I just,
Oh yeah.
and we're about 5 hours into it, and I'm just wasted. I am so tired right now. And I'm just like, oh. And then Rennie.
Who?
Rennie Lutz.
Okay.
Yeah. He great guy. He comes over, and he basically rides the bike out of the mud for me. And while I'm over on the side, just like, this sucks.
Yeah.
So we get a bike, I keep going, but that 390 for all day like that, that kicked my ass.
It's a little bit, but in all fairness, I know I just made a comment about KTM. I think from my experience and knowing people that have KTMs and being around this community and talking to a lot of people, I think the reputation is it's like a grenade. You buy it and you pull the pin, and you might let go or not, and it may be a problem or maybe the best bike in the world for you. You don't know which one you're going to get.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I'm a Honda guy.
There you go. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's like that. The 890's got a great record, right?
For the most part. My cousin actually has one of those, and to this day, it seems to be all, and he got a hell of a deal on it too. So if you're looking at the Naked Woodsman on Instagram, go follow him. He's pretty.
I don't know if I want to now, but okay.
Well, there's a story behind that. There is, and it has to do with the story that I got is he is a huge cyclist, like back in the 80s and stuff, and like professional kind of stuff, and he's a bit of a goofball on top of everything else. And at some point there was like a mountain bike race. I believe it was a 24-hour relay mountain bike race kind of thing. And he did a lap naked in the woods. So that's where the Naked Woodsman comes from.
Gotcha.
Right? So that was like, he's like 50 now or 52 or something. I don't know. But this is back in like probably his late 20s or early 30s. So it makes sense for him. But anyways, so the 390, it treated you well.
Yeah.
It
really did. And part of it was I think part of any frustrations I had was my relative newness to riding.
Oh, yeah.
And then some of the things about the bike that, for me, I didn't quite like the traction control thing.
Right. Learning to understand on and off.
Yeah.
And
on, off. It's very difficult. Right.
And to kind of to your support too. I mean, if you're new to it, I've never ridden with Jake. However, I know about Jake, right? So I've heard a lot of people talk and stuff. And so I'm thinking, well, and I'm even guilty of this too. At sometimes you have that new rider in there, and sometimes you just take off and you're hitting stuff and like, this is awesome. And you forget that you have a new rider or two with you. And I know Sean and I were actually just talking about sometimes as a leader in the group, exactly what we're just talking about. And we were kind of talking a little bit about Jake, and we were talking about stuff. This isn't just Jake, right? Yeah. But this is just in general, just how you can just be like tearing down a road. And I am actually guilty of this on, a couple months ago in September, we were up in Canada. And we were riding. This is for Critter Moto. And he had his big "Get Lost, Go Find Yourself" or "Get Lost, Find Yourself" up there. And there's a whole group of us that went out on a day, and Jonathan was with us. And I remember we were on some gravel road, and I was just getting after it. Like, I'm trying to film and stuff, so I'm trying to get separation from the group so I can set up and get like cool shots of them going by, or maybe find that shot where it's like, okay, everybody stop. We're going to set the camera up here. Well, that stuff. But I was looking down. I was doing like 70, 72 on this gravel road, miles per hour. Yeah. And I was like, dude, got some new guys with you. They're probably doing 25. Yeah. Got to remember that. Yeah. And then you stop and it's like, oh, I am way ahead of everybody. Oh,
yeah. I'll just say, Murray can friggin' ride.
That's what I hear.
That dude can ride.
Yeah.
And he can ride. He's really fast. Yeah, that was a good ride. But I know exactly what you're talking about though. And it's funny though, because I look back and we were down at Giant Loop 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. It was my first time riding down there. And I remember being that guy. I was on the 390 and doing, like 30 miles an hour on some of these gravel roads. And this last year, I'm on my 1200, my GS, and I'm doing freaking 80 down this gravel road that I was doing 30 on 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was comfortable.
To be fair, though, the gravel road leading from Field Station to the Alvord.
That one.
This year, that road was amazing, and you could get after it and be just fine. Now, rewind a couple of years ago. No, we went down there, and they just laid new gravel on that road. Oh. And it was super thick, like several inches thick, and it was super loose. And Moscow Moto was doing their unrally out there on the Alvord at the time. We didn't know that was going on. We just went to Field Station, and it was just like, oh, look at all these freaking dual sports here. It was awesome. So, what you do when you get down to Fields, burger and a milkshake, right?
Yep.
So you go down there, and we're talking with people. That's the first time I met Grace, the Graceful Renegade and stuff. And we're just kind of shooting it a little bit, and then we went down there, and I remember there was a guy on a Super Tenere that's yellow. And my dad has this. He was on his Super Tenere at the time. And we remember kind of like, that's kind of weird. I've never seen a yellow Super T. So he takes off, and then a bunch of other people we're just leaving. And you're on the pavement, and all of a sudden you just hit the gravel. And there was like, people were crashed and stuff. And I remember male and female, I don't know if they're a couple or whatever. I'm going to assume they are. But they were like off the right side of the road towards the Alvord. Yeah. And it was almost like they were getting ready to like just ride through the pucker brush over there because it was better than being on the gravel. And everybody's just doing that dance, and the bikes are going everywhere. But that's also where a lot of the people make a mistake where they're like, I'm going to go too slow. Yeah. And it becomes a lot more difficult to where if you just speed up a little bit, you get through that stage, and you're like, oh, we're good. Yeah. We're good here, Yep. But it was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. Like in and out of the Alvord. It was tough. So if you were doing like 25, 30 miles an hour a few years ago, it could have been that year where that was just
it was all washboard.
Oh yeah.
I was doing it, and it was just, oh my God. But to your point though, if you hit it and get it,
Yeah.
at least you get through it faster.
Well, I think there's a real fine line between too fast and too slow.
Yeah.
Right. So I think too slow, you're going to crash. It's not going to hurt as bad because you're going slow. But I think it's a higher probability of crashing going too slow in, a sand or anything deep like the gravel or whatnot. Obviously, there's a point where this is too fast. But there's that sweet spot. You just got to find it. And once you hit it, I don't know what it is. At least on the AT-AT, my Africa Twin, the bike will feel different. I can't describe it. I get into this and I know how that bike feels and I'm like, found it,
Huh?
and it feels good.
Yep.
Even though we're dancing and you're standing up and you're letting the bike kind of move around and maybe a little looser on the grips to allow it to just kind of dance a little bit. But
Yeah.
I mean, you always find that there.
Oh, yeah.
So, but, so now, you said it. So you got rid of the 390.
Got rid of the 390. I also have a Road King, a Hurley Road King, which
I just heard about this yesterday.
yeah, Sean totally busts my balls all the time about this, but
Well,
I love it.
It's
One, it's gorgeous, and two, I just love riding it.
Yeah.
I love riding that bike. So I love riding my BMW too, which is what I replaced the 390 with.
Okay.
So
So what came next? Was it the 390 to a Harley or was it a 390 to the Beamer?
No, it was the 390 and a Harley. I have two bikes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But you bought the 390 first.
Yeah.
And then the Harley.
Yep.
And then you got rid of the 390 for the GS.
Yeah, for the GS.
Is it GS or GSA?
It's a GS.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a 2018 GS.
Did Sean help you buy that bike?
He sorta.
Because he really likes spending other people's money.
He loves spending other people's money. Yeah. He's really good at it.
Really good. And there's a lot of people with GSs and GSAs because of Sean.
Yeah. So he was a proponent of a newer bike.
Yeah.
Money wise, it was a bit of a stretch for me. Not that I couldn't do it, but my wife, I wasn't too keen on it.
You just said wife. That's all you need to say here.
Right. So I got a good deal. I sold the KTM, private party. Got a good deal on it to a young Army officer. I hope if you're hearing this, I hope you're having a good time on the bike. I haven't heard from you, so I hope you're okay.
Nice. Yeah.
And this bike was sitting at what's the dealership over there in Tigard?
Oh, the Cascade Motors?
Yeah.
BMW?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Cascade Motorsport. It was sitting over there at the BMW shop, and a guy traded in. And this bike had the BMW hard side luggage.
Yeah.
With it, right? It had alt-rider crash bars and skid slate.
I love Outrider.
Well, we're going to talk about that in a second.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I'm trying to remember how many miles it had on it. Nothing big. It was right around 30.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
It's a Beamer. You'll have plenty of miles to get put on.
And it looked good. It's that silver and black.
Yeah, it's a nice bike.
Yeah. I really enjoy it. You could tell it'd been on the ground once or twice. You can see the marks on it. That's fine, but whatever. It's
adventure bike.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had some guy come look at the 390. He's like, "Whoa, you can get some scratches on the crash bar here." I'm like, "It's an adventure bike, dude." Yeah.
Yeah.
So I dropped it. I dropped that thing at we were Giant Loop. That was my first nasty one. I had a bruise from my hip all the way down to my calves.
Thank God it was just a bruise.
Had a big bulge, a big pocket, a blood pocket on the side of my leg, and I'm pretty sure I separated my shoulder. Oh, that was nasty. It still hurts.
That's kind of legit. Then.
That's 3 years ago. It still hurts. Yeah. And my helmet, it's done. That was a one and done on that one.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see that it's. Yeah.
Did you keep it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those are the helmets you got to keep.
Oh yeah, I'm keeping that one. That's fine.
Absolutely.
But it hurt. But I was like, I'm alive. And this is okay. And it was a slow one too. I was trying. So Sean will call me Rut. There's a reason he calls me Rut. So
I figured it out right
yeah,
there.
there you go.
Okay.
Anyway,
Yeah.
but yeah, the Beamer is great, and the only bad thing is I absolutely hate Starbucks.
So, wow, that's unusual, because every time I talk to Sean about riding, he's like, well, we got to meet at Starbucks.
Of course.
And then we'll ride to this Starbucks, and then we'll go to that Starbucks, and we'll end the day at this one. It's kind of crazy. I think it's kind of funny, too. I did glance down at the counter up there, and
Oh, my.
we didn't even talk motorcycles until 2 hours and 1 minute.
Sorry.
No, I think it's awesome. Like I said, this podcast is called Motorcycles and Podcakes, right?
Right.
And it's the Motorcycles and Pancakes thing, right? I'm not going to pigeonhole this podcast to just motorcycles and just people that ride. Like I said, I want to learn things and I want to talk to interesting people. And, dude, you just hitting that out of the park so far today. So, you didn't do any moto camping until, was Giant Loop the first time you did like a moto camp trip?
Yeah. And even then, I would say that's probably, being gracious, right?
Right.
You go down to Giant Loop, everybody's set up in one big camp. It's not like you're going from spot to spot,
Right.
camping along the way.
Yeah, and not to interrupt real quick, but if you don't know what the Giant Loop ride is, so like I have friends like, oh, I'm going to the Giant Loop ride, and they're like, well, is it just like you ride in a big circle or something? And I'm like, no. So I think Central Eastern Oregon, Southeast Oregon and stuff is probably some of the most epic motorcycle riding in the country, period. I think the only other place that would even compare to that would be like Moab, Bryce Canyon, Zion, like that part of Utah. What they do is they get Crane Creek Hot Springs, I believe is the campground there, and they rent that out for basically a long weekend. And so you have like a base camp. So everybody comes in, there's vendors there. Like this year was Triumph, Harley,
Royal Enfield.
the Royal Enfield. Oh my God, dude. Also Ural. there is a video of Critter and I doing that. But I'm really forgetting the guy's name with the Royal Enfield. He's from California. Yeah. He was one of the coolest guys.
Yeah.
But he had so many bottles of whiskey that I could not walk by there. He was like, hey, pancakes. I'm like, what? And he would be like, here's a shot. Come hang out. And it's just like, free whiskey? Okay, I'll hang out.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, it was brutal. And he would catch me on the way to your guys' tent. I'm going to go get a beer and go over there. So you get a shot on the way and a shot on the way back.
Nice.
You're like,
nice.
slow her down.
Tour Tech was there.
Yeah, Tour Tech, Hippo Hands, Motaz was there.
That's where I got my tires.
Yeah.
I got new tires.
The Seat Company.
Seat Concepts?
Yeah, Seat Concepts. And then food carts.
Yeah.
Or the food cart. That was delicious and stuff. So basically, you have a base camp. You throw out your tent. There's guys with RVs that show up. Some people would trailer their stuff. I don't know why in the world you trailer your motorcycle, but that's just me. So you just go and you hang out.
Yeah.
And it's fun.
Yeah.
It's a good event.
It's a good time. And if you don't mind, I'd like to give a shout out to Giant Loop and Harold and his team.
Oh, he's great.
So every year they sponsor 10 veterans.
Yeah.
Like paid for.
Mm-hmm.
To go to the thing. And
which is not cheap.
Right. And we do the rest. One thing that VB40 does is we man the beer booth, the beverage booth.
Right.
It's not just beers, but the beverage booth. And that's how we give back to Harold and Giant Loop. But we just wanted to say thank you because you, Giant Loop, you allow us to further our mission of taking care of veterans, getting them in an environment where they can be with other veterans, they can let their hair down, get that kind of, Sean calls it dirt therapy, I call it campfire therapy.
Yeah.
But the magic happens when either one, you've got an issue while you're out on the ride and you work together as a team to figure that out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Denny Klein, when I when I had my rut crash, I was riding with Denny, and Denny lives in Idaho. Great guy, and he made sure I was okay.
Mm-hmm.
He made sure I was okay, and we actually finished the ride. We were at the very, very beginning of Stinkwater when that happened.
Oh, really? So Stinkwater's close to camp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we were at the entry point that was closest to camp, and then we finished. We went all the way up to the highway and then back around.
Yeah.
So
That's such a good ride.
But I was hurting, and my handlebars were this way.
Oh, a little off camber.
Yep. And we never really got them back. But anyway, but so that's where part of the magic happens. The other magic happens when you're back in camp, and the day is done, and you're sitting around the campfire, and you're telling stories, and you're just getting to know each other, and you'd be surprised some of the things that kind of come out, and it allows people to kind of let their hair down, let their guard down a little bit.
Yeah.
And you make such good friends there, and that there's a lot of opportunity there. But I just wanted to thank Harold and Giant Loop for that sponsorship. It's hugely important, and we really, really cherish our relationship with Giant Loop.
Yeah, Harold is an amazing dude. I don't know how else to say it. When you're around him, you're just like,
he's just a great guy.
This guy's rad.
Yeah.
I was hanging out with like Ben and Travis and a bunch of people, and we were just right above, right up that little hill, right
you guys,
from where you guys were doing the beers.
Yep.
And
being all snobs and everything, that's fun.
oh no, we weren't, not at all. But I remember one night we were hanging out up there, and I think the beer was like quote unquote closed.
Yeah.
Right. But like everybody's like, go get in the cooler. It's fine. Yeah. We'd go down, and grab a couple things or whatever. But I remember being up there, and you guys had your fire kind of right behind the VB40 area, right? Mm-hmm. So at a stone throw would probably be like 20 yards from us, maybe 30, maybe, right?
Yeah.
And I remember looking down there because Brian was down there, and Sean and stuff. And then like you and I were getting to know each other, and then Carl was down there, and we were just kind of like, maybe we should go down and see what's going on with those guys or whatever. And I remember looking down there, looking around my fire pit that we were hanging out with, was a bunch of idiots. We're just there, and we're laughing, we're joking around, and we're just being ridiculous, right? Some of the things that are being said. And Grace, I'm really sorry that you consider yourself one of the boys, but wow, some of that stuff coming out, I was like, oh, cringing. But then I looked down. There was not one smile down at the VB40 fire. It was like the most serious look. And I don't know if I was just seeing a moment or what, but I specifically remember looking down there, and it was just like, oh no, that is something special going on down there. And we have no right to go down and interrupt at all. So, and then also with just that moment, but then this year in particular, Soils on Instagram, I think it's Soils Man on Instagram, Pete.
Yeah.
I mean, he fundraised for 20.
Yeah. So
20 extra people, vets to come.
That was the other shout out I wanted to give was to Pete. Pete Saget, can't thank you enough either. Yeah, he went around and got companies to donate enough funds to allow 20 more vets to go.
Yeah.
And we had people tell us, you'll never get 20 people, or you'll never get 30 people. What are you doing? And we got 30 people to sign up. So I don't think all 30 made it. I think we were around 27. But in the end, though, we had people show up that I guess weren't part of like weren't part of the donation, but they were still in camp and showed up, and so you still had this huge presence.
Yeah.
But Pete, yeah, can't thank you enough, man. We lovingly call him Piggy Pete because he does a ride up there in Washington.
Yeah.
It's a Piggy Pete ride. Well, I kind of hope we keep doing that and can help him out with that going forward.
Well, the first time I met Pete was this year at Giant Loop.
Okay.
And Critter knew him.
Yeah.
So Critter and I were like joined at the hip at that event. Yeah. Everywhere we went together. So he wanted to go down and say hi. So we went down to his trailer. And the very first, the first interaction I had with Pete, he was like, "Hey, what's going on? Psst,
yep.
Here's a beer."
Here's a beer. Yeah.
I was like, I love this guy.
Yeah.
And then he here's some chairs, hang out with us. And we sat down at his trailer for a while. And I was very just taken back by the hospitality of this guy, right? And sometimes you meet somebody and you're like, there's something special about this guy. And I don't mean like, but like, special.
Not your yellow boys.
Yeah. But we had a good time with him there. And then I think it's really weird how the social medias get you to know people, back and forth in chats or whatever. So we had that. And then he also showed up to Critter's event.
Yeah.
And he and I had a pretty good conversation. Just do conversation, whatever. Hey, what's going on? And he was there for a short time. Like he showed up, I think, one night and then had to bounce early the next morning, or maybe it was 2 days. I don't know. But he was there for just a short amount of time. And I don't know if it's the same ride, but he was telling me about another ride that he's thinking about. I'm not going to give any of the details because I don't know who he's bringing on or whatever. But there was a different ride, and I'm very interested in doing that, and it's going to be pretty rad. So Pete, make sure you keep me informed of that. And JJ will show up together.
There you go. Yeah. Pete's a great guy. He's a good rider too.
Yeah. Something happened to his bike, and he showed up on, I think, one of Corey's old bikes or something up there. So pretty wild. Yeah. Boy, that's an event you should try to get to next year if you can. If there's space left, I think it's going to sell out pretty quick.
Get lost.
Yeah. It's pretty epic going up there. Just the North Island in general is just gorgeous.
I got to get a damn passport.
Something tells me you might be connected with some people who might be able to help you with that.
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
Bureaucracy
You'd be surprised. Right? I'm just gonna say this. You would think if there's one agency in the government that has their stuff in one sock, it'd be the Secret Service.
Okay.
I'll just say that.
That works for me, man. So we've been over a lot of stuff with you, and we just crossed over the 2.5 hour mark, right?
Yeah.
So, and again, it just flows, right? So with you starting this moto camping, I might have heard a story where you had a tent incident with a zipper or something, and you just ended up throwing it out because you.
Yeah.
That happens.
It happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it 10 or was it the sleeping bag? I tend to have issues with sleeping bags too.
Okay.
Yeah. I've destroyed like 2 sleeping bags just because the whole mummy bag concept does not. I can't do it. I just can't do it.
Yeah. So you should go to Moto Camp Nerd. Go to his website and get yourself one of the. I think they're called quilts. It's a sleeping bag quilt.
I did that.
There you go.
I can't wait to use it.
Okay. Awesome.
So, but the tent. Yeah. Okay. So it was one of those. I was thinking, this looks like it'd be a good idea. Now, this tent was not meant for slapping on the back of a bike.
Okay. Yeah.
So, car camping, truck camping, you're probably okay. That said, I trailered my bike down to Giant Loop, but with the VB40 trailer. So it was all of our stuff.
See, that's the acceptable way to trailer your stuff.
Right.
So
I don't know what we're going to do this year. I was thinking about, I'd love for somebody else to tow the trailer down. I'd like to do the ride.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll figure all that out.
Yeah.
So VB40 guys, be thinking about who's going to tow the trailer.
Well, there might be a truck driver that might be available to maybe tow it down there, and I say that because I don't want to do the drive down there, or I don't want to trailer my bike, and I give people crap for that, but I'm just kidding, and good fun and spirits. But we haven't said anything about it yet, but there is something that's coming up next year that's going to be right after the Giant Loop event next year. And I'm thinking it's such a big and important deal that I will attend Giant Loop, but not ride Giant Loop, because I don't want to take the extra risk for what's going to happen the Friday after Giant Loop and to start that. So,
all right,
I'll say it here. I might potentially be able to tow a trailer down or something. Okay. Just let me know. Yeah. I don't know about back. But
no, you take it down, you got to bring it back. So
right. So that's, and that's, kids, right? Kids. It's just like, okay, we got Giant Loop. It's an important thing.
Right.
Right. So it should be on like the international calendar. Don't plan anything during this.
Oh, no.
Awesome. So my kid, he's talking to me and he's like, hey, yeah, we're getting married and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, right on. I'm so like, great. I'm ecstatic, right? Yeah, we're getting June 1st. I'm like, no. You cannot get married on June 1st. I will be at Giant Loop. Of course you can't say that, but that's my head. Right? Like,
oh, yeah.
Are you kidding me, kid? And you're like, awesome. So I'm going to go early to Giant Loop. Friday midday, I'm going to bounce back to Portland.
Oh, dude.
I'm going to be there all day Saturday, do the wedding, and then I will be back to Giant Loop when everybody's leaving on Sunday because of what we got going on. I got to be back there to meet other people to do our thing.
You should fly.
If I knew somebody with a helicopter.
Yeah, I'm telling you, get a private pilot and have them zip you back and forth.
Yeah, right.
We'll haul your bike down.
Yeah, there we go. The AT-AT will definitely be there, 100%. But or there could be something else down there. Ooh, things to come. Who knows? Yeah. We're supposed to announce what we were doing on the 1st of this month, but people involved kind of have other things that have been very important and have been taking some time. So I'm not sure when we're going to announce. You and I have already talked about this.
Oh, yeah.
And, Sean and everybody. So we just haven't announced exactly what's going on yet. So that's why. And I'm sure I've said this before. And I'm sure people are getting irritated. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But
that's it.
Worth
I'll
it.
just say I think it's going to be worth it for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
Hey, since we're throwing out thanks and stuff, I want to thank Grace. She and Alex Chacon went on the Embrace the Tuck ride. They were the video team that captured all of that. Mm-hmm. And Grace is now working on the final edits. Yeah. And what a pro. I mean, she's amazing. First of all, she's just an amazing person. Holy smokes.
Double that.
And I can't thank her enough for her professionalism and her vision on this tuck thing.
Yeah.
So Grace, thank you so much. You're just awesome.
So they Alex and Grace stayed here. I don't remember when. Alex had an event down at SW Mototech in Portland, and they came down the day before. We just hung out, and chatted and stuff, and then everybody took off. It was a Friday, so it was a work day and stuff. So people are all out of the house or whatever, and Grace and I sat down in my kitchen for like all morning, like at least 3 hours.
Yeah.
Trying to work, and she got some work going on. I had some work going on. Alex was sleeping, and apparently he had a little bit of a thing. I don't know. Like, he has a hard time sleeping sometimes. So when he sleeps, it's like, just let him sleep kind of deal.
Yeah.
And dude, he slept into like 10. I was like, what are you, a teenager or something?
Wow.
But it was just really great to spend that kind of time with her. Mm-hmm. And just taking that friendship that you already know of somebody and then just growing it in these kind of, I'm going to say intimate setting, kind of loosely, but it was just, there's just something about drinking coffee and just no guards up, doing your thing, and just, I really took from what I already liked about her.
Yeah.
And it was just like, damn, this is like more than just a legit friendship. Like I'll tell people she's my little sister. That's how I see her.
Yeah.
That's our relationship.
Yeah.
You know, and then she was up getting ready, and then Alex was down there, and he and I just started talking about some of his trips and journeys and stuff. And I was just like, oh my God, this guy is so interesting.
Yeah.
You know, and they're just great people. And I think the project, and that's kind of what the segue I think I was getting back to with her is I heard a little bit about the project and things that went on, you know, with it, and, you know, the re-editing that needed to go on and all this stuff. And I was just listening to it and the vision and her talking about all this footage, and
Yeah.
I was just like, man, so lucky.
Oh yeah.
I just admire her so much for that, her creativity, her vision, her knowledge, and everything. So you shouting her out is like, I will second guess, or not second guess, but
Really?
No, I will definitely second that. You know,
You heard that, right, Grace? You heard that. He's second guessing you.
she knows, not at all, not at all. So with your moto camping, has there been any trip where you're just been like, that was the raddest trip? We got to take Giant Loop out.
Oh,
Right, because that's kind of
I haven't done much. That's
Really?
just it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I've been trying to get like Sean says, spend the money, get quality gear, right?
have to, yeah.
Yeah. So kind of been working on and getting a good stock up. What I did do is I loaded my bike down like I was going for mopping madness.
Yeah. That was a Jake Murray event, wasn't it? was that Brian?
He's
No,
part of
Brian.
this year was Brian.
Okay.
Yeah.
I knew one of those guys ran it.
Which, by the way, I got to give a shout out to Sue's out
Okay.
there mopping.
Yeah.
Thank you for your support. They've supported VB40 the past few years, and with proceeds that they get from mopping. So Suze, we really appreciate your support.
Yeah.
It's huge, and look forward to seeing you again this year.
That's vb40adv.org,
.org.
and you can go make a donation right now,
Give us money. Yes.
Well, it's actually, that's
Or
money
help.
that goes directly to a cause.
It does. So that's the other thing.
Yeah.
Our board is not paid. We're all volunteers.
Yeah.
We're all veterans. We're all volunteers. This is really about the cause and serving veterans. There's nothing, I guess the personal aspect of it is the good feeling, I guess, that we get from doing that, from serving veterans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's important to say too, because I think sometimes you donate to somebody and you're like, how much of my dollar is actually going to the cause?
Yeah. So I'll tell you right now what our overhead is. Our overhead is insurance,
Mm-hmm.
the trailer, some camping gear, but not much. It's basically for the big group campouts. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, our bikes are our bikes, our personal bikes.
Mm-hmm.
Any maintenance, that's our money. We don't use org funds for that.
Right.
All that money goes back into providing these events for veterans.
Yeah. And there's, like we said, the Giant Loop, you got the tent there, you got the trailer there. So that takes money to get there,
Yeah.
and
And gas. Yeah.
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 The whole aspect of getting over there, and then all the other events that you do and stuff. I just think it's stellar. Yeah. Absolutely. So you haven't done too much moto camping outside of the loop.
Right.
Are you more of a style of, I guess, the Giant Loop style where you have like a home base, so you get there, you set up, and that's where you're at? So a lot of people I like to camp on my motorcycle. And there's other people that I like to ride my motorcycle and then just camp at the end of the day. And that's me. I don't need to know where I'm going to camp at the end of the day. I just want to go and ride. And if my set route is supposed to make a right here, but I feel like going left, I'm going to go left.
Yeah.
and then I'm like, well, gee, the sun's going to be down, or I've been on my bike for 10 hours or 12 hours or whatever. That looks like a great camping spot. Like, that's my way of riding.
Right.
you know?
So I'm kind of in my answer is I don't know.
Okay. That's fair.
I've always pictured myself being in more of that camp because I'm very much let's go see what's down that, let's go this way.
Oh, that is so me.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what actually, because we were off the Stinkwater Trail when I ran that rut and crashed because I was like, oh, hey, let's go up there. That looks cool,
Yeah.
So, but that doesn't change that. I still like, ooh, what's up there?
Yeah.
Now I'm probably a little more cautious than a lot of you guys about, like I'll go and if it starts looking a little sketchy, I might, yeah, okay, I've seen what's up here. I'm good. I'll turn around and go back.
There's nothing with that.
But,
Yeah.
and a lot of times I'm by myself too.
Yeah.
Part of that is, and this is something that I have to get over, is that I don't know how to put it. It's like, I don't want to burden more experienced riders with, me being slow or, not wanting to go down a certain trail because I'm not sure I can handle it or, that kind of thing. And, people say, oh no, don't worry about it. But, then all of a sudden you're looking at their taillights a mile up the trail and you're like, no, I'm not doing it. Sorry.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of truth to both of that, right?
Yeah.
So I think, as a new rider, maybe you don't want a burden, as you're saying.
Yeah.
But as an experience, right? And I'm using that so loosely with myself, so loosely. But as somebody who can kind of ride a motorcycle a little bit, I really don't mind. And this might have to do with I ride with my dad, who's 74 and is not fast. Well, off-road, he's not fast. On the road, it's like, Jesus, slow down there, guy. Yeah. But, I really don't mind that.
Yeah.
Sometimes just riding and, oh, okay, we'll stop for a little bit. It's not that big of a deal, So I think it's just that when you're in that setting, you got to just, let's go, because you're going to get a lot better riding with people that are better than you. And
yeah.
Going back, I rode up in Canada last April, and I was on this Easter Giver ride, and I was in these different groups because every time we would stop at these viewpoints or vistas, it seems like when we left, Critter and I were with a completely different group of riders and a completely different riding style. So it was like every time it was a lot of just casual riding.
Yeah.
And then we got hooked up with
some bombers.
Some like I'm in second gear, like with my hand off, like almost turned around looking at stuff, going so slow.
Oh.
But then we got with all the speed demons and we're full rally mode. And these guys are going around corners, kind of, power sliding around the corners and stuff. And I'm trying it. And I remember this one dude come up next to me. He's like, oh, you got to flex that butt cheek over here. Just give it throttle and you'll kick that thing around, which actually works, but it took me a while. But it's just, you're not going to get better unless you get with somebody, and so I encourage you to ride. Like, let's go ride all the time.
Yeah.
I'm cool.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tend to, like, I'm not a speed demon.
Yeah.
I like to kind of take it in a little bit. But for me, the ride is an experience.
Beautifully said.
Right?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I don't like going fast.
Yeah, we all have those moments. Yeah.
Right. But, especially like right now, maybe not right now. A couple days ago when the leaves were really turning and they were popping.
Oh yeah.
Oh man,
it's gorgeous.
Just kind of riding and taking it in, and
yep.
And I don't mind riding for a while and stopping too.
Yeah.
Like my buddy DJ, the guy that put me on his Harley, he's all about riding. I'm going for a ride. He does not stop. Like, he doesn't stop to take it in or anything. Nope, I'm on a ride. That's what I'm doing. I'm riding. So he rides.
Yeah, and I think there's maybe different. So, road versus adventure.
Yes.
Okay. So, road, I don't think there's the opportunity to stop very much on the road. Yes, there is, but it's not like an adventure ride where you're on a 2-track or you're doing some gravel travel and you're away from anybody.
Yeah.
And it's just you and a couple buddies maybe. And then you turn that corner and you get that surprise view. Boom. And you're just like stopping.
Yeah.
You know, you have the opportunity to stop in the middle of the road because there's nobody else out there.
Yeah.
Whereas on the road, you might be away from it, but there's still cars out there.
Oh, yeah.
You know, maybe it's not the safest place to pull over just in case that hooligan comes ripping around the corner on their truck or their car or something. So I just feel like there's more opportunity to safely and hang out and then also stop and pee.
Yes.
How many times, not to get there, the podcast, but how many times have you peed and you're just like, this is epic.
Yeah, right.
Look at this view.
Wow.
Yeah. It's pretty rad.
Yeah. I actually went for a ride with Sean and Brian. We went up to Cloud Cap Inn.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What a great, I mean, that was awesome. And that was a challenge for me. I was on the KTM. I'm not, I'm not great going downhill.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
some people don't like going downhill, for sure.
Those gravel switchbacks going downhill, I could do it, but I'm not nearly as fast as you guys. It's just not going to happen. But it was a great ride. We had a great time. But I remember on the way up, there was a spot, and I have a picture. I'll have to dig it out. I'll send it to you later. But
okay.
I told Brian and Sean, I said, just stare at the mountain. Just stare at the mountain. And so they're standing next to their bikes, and they're juxtaposed like this, and the mountain's in the background, and there's trees like this.
Yeah.
And I got this shot of them, and it's just I think it's a great picture.
I bet it's amazing.
Yeah,
I would love to see it.
But you're right. It's those opportunities, and that's why I like the adventure bike riding.
Yeah.
But I'll probably I'll never be single tracking it on my 1200 like some guys do. Ain't gonna happen.
I ride the at like a 250.
Yeah. It's probably never gonna happen. I'm okay with that. But
yeah, you realizing your riding style is so important, and it's like you're speaking like a real. Yeah, and you've been riding for a while, but it really seems like a very seasoned thing to say, because I think too many people get into adventure riding and thinking, well, I get on Instagram and I'm watching these pro riders on single track and they're doing these crazy turns or they're jumping and stuff. And so they kind of have in your head, I have to do that.
Yeah.
When I think most adventure riding is actually on gravel roads. You're off the beaten path. And it may not be well-traveled gravel, but nonetheless, you're doing the gravel travel. Maybe some single track to get over somewhere. Maybe some 2-track, But I think recognizing your style of riding is so important. And I think that also goes back to my dad and I will have debates, because he's always trying to talk, I want to get a lighter bike. And I'm like, no. I like the Africa Twin. I like the bigger bikes because that's my style. Because not only do I'll ride it on a single track, but I want to leave my garage and go to Moab.
Yeah.
And I want to ride to Moab.
Yeah.
Like Critter does it on Lucy's 250L.
Yeah.
But, dude,
I don't know. He's insane, man. That's awesome, though.
I would rather do that on a bigger bike with more of the fairings and stuff. And then the cruise control and the power going down the road or whatever. But that's my style. So the big bikes are me, and like I said, I'll take it anywhere. I'll follow you, and if I have a difficult time, that's me.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to be smiling under the helmet.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
So recognizing that is so important, because there's so many different kinds of riding. We all have dual sport adventure bikes or whatever. Dude, you can do so many different things on those things.
Yeah.
It's so rad. So freaking rad. We have to keep going for about another 10 minutes.
You're on.
Because Sean is at 3 hours and 4 minutes and he has the record, and I bet you would want to beat him.
Every day.
All right.
And twice on Sunday.
And twice on Sunday. Yeah. Sorry, Sean, we're about to break your record, bro. So the giant, here's actually the question that I actually like to ask everybody that comes on, except for Misty. I had Misty Hurst on earlier this week, and she is, dude, we were like 3 hours into it. 3 hours and 1 minute is what I think it was. And we had to stop because we were only tickling her writing career. We went through her like professional career and everything, and it was incredible. So I didn't have the chance to ask her yet because I don't know her around the world writing stuff. It's still to come, right? Yeah. So we hung out afterwards and chit chatted, and it was like, okay, when you come back on in 3 or 4 months, I want to know this, and that's what I'm going to ask her this question. Yeah. But the question I want to pose to you is, time and money are not an issue.
Okay.
Right? So you have full money, full time to do whatever you want. Where, and like anywhere, what is your dream motorcycle trip? What would that look like? Where would you go?
Wow. Ooh, that's a tough one. So I'm a big fan of the long way around, long way down.
Who isn't?
Long way up is kind of cheesy.
Okay, you're on electric bikes, so you got to throw that away.
That whole thing. I'm like, come on, guys.
Right.
Anyway, of the two, though, long way down was my favorite.
Going through Africa.
I love it when they get into Africa.
Yeah.
That said, I have no desire to ride through Africa.
Way to set that up.
Right. Like that. What I'd love to do is concept-wise kind of the same. I'd like to start in San Diego.
Okay.
I'd like to ride as much BDR as I could up to Washington. Then ride all the way over to Maine, down to Florida, back to San Diego.
So basically, frame the United States.
I'd like to frame the U.S.
That would be pretty cool. That would be very cool. And you know that...
and with as much back road as possible. I know it's not going to be possible, for a lot of it, but still.
There still is, though. You get on the BDR website, and you can see all the states that actually have the BDRs on there. Yeah. I think some of the roads would be cool. Some, like especially in like the Northeast, like through Pennsylvania, some of those back roads are spectacular.
Yeah,
they're so cool back there.
Yeah,
I think that would be.
And I'd like to ride the Smoky Mountain Parkway.
Yeah,
coming down.
You'd have to.
Oh yeah, I've driven it.
Yeah,
part or sections of it, and I'm just like, oh my God. I was talking to my brother. He lives in North Carolina. I was talking to him. This would be a phenomenal motorcycle ride. And he's like, oh yeah,
that sounds perfect.
And he said, when you come out here, we got to go do the Dragon.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah, the Till the Dragon.
Right.
I'm gonna probably upset some people.
Yeah.
I have no desire.
No.
I have no desire to go hit that road. I think the twisties are pretty cool. My dad's friend, who's actually passed away now, had a friend, very experienced riders, die on it.
Yeah.
We have here in Oregon, we have the Little Tail of the Dragon.
The Little Tail. Yeah.
And I think that's so much better for the reasons of higher speed limits, but nobody's out there, so get after it. Our video just shut off.
It did.
Our video feed just shut off.
Oh, sorry, video.
Yeah.
We broke it.
It's getting too large to save. So I guess we have that, and I'll just do that. And I'll edit that together. But, yeah, I just don't have the desire to go all the way over to the other side of the country and do it, because I think the speed limit's like 35.
Yeah, probably.
Something like that. It's like, and then you're going to have.
Let's see, again, for me,
Well, no, I think in my mind, I might be totally wrong with this, but in my mind, it's such a hot spot for people to show off. And I don't want those guys coming up behind me and trying to pass me because I'm not going to be showing off.
Yeah. So there's a stretch of paved forest road between what the heck is it? There's a lake. So you go down. Shoot, I need a map. Murray took me down there.
Where are we at in Oregon?
Yeah, Oregon, south of Highway 20.
South of 20. That's a long road that goes all the way across the state.
Yeah. But so you go straight down on 213.
Okay.
Through
down to Detroit?
No. You end up in Detroit. But so Detroit.
So over there would be like Olali Lake, Timothy Lake.
Yeah.
Olali Lake's actually part of the Oregon BDR now on the alternate route.
Cool.
That's a beautiful place. One of my favorite places ever.
But anyway, I'll get it to you later. But it's just all the way up.
Little twisties. I love it.
And him and I cannot remember the name of the guy we were riding with, and I apologize. Sorry. But they just left me like in the dust. I'm just, Lord. And then a couple of dudes on crotch rockets come up behind me, and I had to get, I actually pulled over. I found a spot and pulled over because there was a whole group of them. And so, for the record, I hate crotch rockets. I can't stand you guys. So,
I have a little story that scared the hell out of me with a couple crotch rocket guys. We have Malala not too far from where I'm at, and there's this road called Sawtail, and it's just a nice road. It's a little twisty going out of town, and once you get out of town for a while, you kind of get on top of the ridge, you gain a bunch of elevation, and you're just kind of cruising. So you have these twisties, and at some point up the road, it turns to gravel. I'm at the bottom of the hill. I tied into it through kind of some series of side streets, right? So I didn't go all the way into Malala. I came out of Oregon City and kind of went this roundabout way that I know how to get there.
Okay.
And I make a left, and down to my right, like a long ways down, were two guys on crotch rockets. So I'm turning, and I make the left, and I just happen to look back as I'm making the left turn. I kind of look back. No, I just kind of look back at them. And one of the guys threw his hand up in the air, like, "What are you doing?" kind of gesture. I was like, okay. I mean, they're nowhere close, right?
But they wanted to be.
Yeah, they wanted to be.
Yeah.
So we're going down the road, and on the straights, man, they would catch me like nothing.
Yeah.
But maybe not experienced riders, because now I'm into the curves, into the twisty part, and I'm pulling away from them where I don't see them anymore. We get a straightaway, man, they're right on my donkey again. So we're playing this game, right? And I don't really think it's a game. I'm just riding. And then, of course, I was like, I know this road really well, so I'm like, I can hit this a little bit harder than average, right? So I'll hit these corners, whatever. Fast forward several miles. There's a long straightaway, and then some twisties, and then the gravel. And I come out of these twisties, and I'm about halfway down the straightaway when they come around the corner. These guys were on me and past me like I was standing still.
Yeah.
And I was not going slow, but I wasn't going fast, right? Scared the shit out of me because I knew that gravel was coming up. And clearly they didn't. And they were going way fast. Like the first guy that went by me was easily over 100. Now the dad in me sees these guys going by in jeans and, Vans or whatever. The dad in me is now going, oh no.
Yeah.
And I have a first aid kit and a trauma kit on my motorcycle.
Yeah.
So now I'm going through the scenario in my head. I'm looking at my phone. I'm like, do I have cell service? Am I going to have to use my Zoleo SOS? What is going to happen here? So I'm really worked up at this point. I worked myself up into a panic because I'm really thinking I'm going to come up on a bad accident scene of these two guys. I come around the corner to see where the gravel starts. Literally the second guy, rear tire was on the pavement, front tire was in the gravel. And you can see a little bit of the skid mark coming up to it, right? A little bit of an older bike. The other guy was standing up on his bike, so he didn't crash, but he was well into the gravel. And you can see the line was just crazy. Like, he did a good job of keeping it up.
Yeah.
I told them, I said, you guys scared the hell out of me because I knew this was coming up. And all they did was look on Google Maps and saw that if we stay on this road, we can end up down by Detroit, which you can't. You know, Weyerhaeuser Gates and all this, right, up there. Yeah. But it's all gravel, obviously. But they just assumed that it was just like that road all the way to Detroit, to the Detroit area. Man, I was like, there's nothing like that up here. Yeah. You know, it scared the holy hell out of me. So
that's why, like, I love riding 224 out of Estacada down to Detroit. You know,
that's good road
through there.
Yeah,
46 is good road. Problem is, those guys know it's good road.
Yeah,
they come out of freaking nowhere. You know, and end up blowing your fairings off as they pass you and flip you off. And
I've never been flipped off by those guys passing me, but I've had them just. Here they come. I'll ease over and just let them go. In fact, it's weird for me.
Get out of their way for sure.
It's weird for me as a motorcycle guy. If those guys go blowing by me and they're in like jeans or whatever, I'm like, you freaking idiot. What are you doing? Blah, 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 blah. If you go blowing by me and you're in like full leathers, I'm like, yeah, dude, go get some.
I can't go tear it up, man.
I don't know. I'm just so back and forth on all of that stuff. Right. So, I would like to congratulate you on beating Sean's record. We are over his record by over 3 minutes right now.
Take that, Sean.
That's right. So we have a new holder. And in fact, we went so long that it shut that camera off and I had to restart it.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I never had that happen before. I think that's pretty rad. So the framing of the United States, I think that's a pretty cool trip. And you can do a lot up there for sure. And I think for me, if I did that, you go over to, I don't know what part of Michigan it is, but you have to go out on the Great Lake, and there's actually a national park that is an island.
Yeah.
I would have to go check that out if I was over in that area.
Yeah.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it's definitely, for me, take your time, see the sights, stop at Rushmore, stop at, whatever.
100%. 100%. Rushmore is pretty cool. I don't know if you've ever been there.
Once when I was a kid.
Yeah. Yep. That's my cousin was stationed there at Ellsworth.
Oh, yeah.
So that's where he lives. So we went, the whole family over there. Fun fact, my kids were in the B1, because that's what he was in, the simulators.
Yeah.
And, dropping bombs on tanks. And my claim to fame is I've crashed twice on the simulator.
Well, there you go.
They're like, you want to fly? And I'm like, okay. And I tried to do an in-air refuel simulation or something, and the pilot was actually standing behind me, and he goes, we just crashed. I was like, awesome.
We just crashed the plane.
Yeah. So I think for fun right now,
all right,
while we're sitting here, I'm going to take a quick picture for Sean of the time, and we'll do that on air so we can really get the good expense of it.
He's going to want to come back and do another one.
Right.
Yep.
Oh, no, the flash is on. That's all right. 3 hours, 9 minutes, 45 seconds.
Take that, John.
That's right. I'm going to say, JJ, beat your record.
You got to have Grace on here, man.
We've talked about it. She's definitely going to be on it at some point.
Cool.
She is a very busy woman.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I prefer to do these in person like what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And I have a program now that actually allows me to do them kind of remotely. Yeah. So it actually opens up my guest list quite a bit. And that's how I got Misty on here this week, because she's in Canada. So I think we might have to do it that way with her, but whatever.
Yeah.
I'd rather her sitting here across, because you get the body language.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think the conversations go a little bit better. And every once in a while, when you're talking to somebody, doing them remotely, they freeze. You can still hear them, but like the picture freezes. I'm like, that sucks. Yeah. So, well, like I said, we're at 3 hours, 10 minutes, and 52 seconds. So we done beat Sean's record. And actually, we should get out of here, because it's, 1:30? So the VFW is actually doing an open house right now. Yeah. And I really want to go down and check that out.
Yep. I've got a display set up down there. I do that every year.
Because that started at 1, right?
It started at 11. It's over at 4.
Oh, well, we better get down there then.
Yeah.
Dude, I really appreciate you coming on to the podcast and
my pleasure.
Giving me your time like this. I think time is valuable, and it's very much appreciated. Yeah. So until next time, everybody, remember VB40ADV.org. Go give a little donation, or whether it's $1 or $100, whatever, because it actually goes to something amazing. Yeah. So, anything else?
No. Thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Yeah, dude, I appreciate you. And just like that,